Flashes of lightning seemed to tear the sky into many fragments. The wind fluttered the purple flag. In the light of lightning flashes, the cup fell, spilling its contents on the floor. The man with blonde hair fell to the floor dead. Another flash of lightning illuminated the brunette, who was coldly watching what was happening. After leaving the scene of the crime, the girl ordered the knights to deal with the crown prince. Two men clad in iron armor carried out the lifeless body. The girl whispered quietly about her adored lover. The brunette's hands were shaking violently. Now the woman realized that she had committed a sinful act. Clutching her trembling hands tightly, the girl realized that it was all for his sake. She walked past many defeated opponents. There was a cool calm on her face and a copper key was visible in her hands. The brunette realized that on the orders of her lover, she had betrayed the kingdom. She sincerely hoped that he was happy. The heroine wiped her bloody hands on the hem of her dress. She was looking forward to him becoming king. The girl wiped the remaining blood from her pale face. The brunette walked through the palace, not paying attention to the bloody corpses. She felt her heart jump out of her chest with the realization that the guy would now love her even more. A man with expressive blue eyes sat on a throne. The rays of the rising sun made their way through the small window behind him. The new ruler's face was stained with blood. He asked the girl how everything went. The brunette moved towards her lover, trying not to pay attention to the bloody bodies. The girl's gaze froze. She swallowed nervously. The girl said that she had dealt with Crown Prince Alfonso. The man's small smirk grew into a loud laugh. Having calmed down a little, the brown-haired man looked at her and noticed that she had done a pretty good job. The corners of Ariadne's mouth spread into a modest smile as soon as the girl heard praise addressed to her. Rising from the throne, the man walked towards the brunette. He told the woman that now their time had come. The lover promised Ariadne that as soon as everything calmed down, he would make her the most noble woman in the entire kingdom. The man hugged the brunette tightly to him. The girl noticed that Cesare knew that this is what her heart longed for. There was nothing better for her than the praise of her lover. After all, if he was happy, it meant that she was too. The girl stood holding the brown-haired man to her. She was ready to do anything to be near him. The lover did not pay attention to the many defeated knights. 9 years have passed since Cesare successfully carried out a coup d'état. The man became a resident of the Etruscan kingdom. He kept his promise, and now the brunette played the role of the one who managed the internal affairs of the creator. Ariadne tried to do everything that the former queen did. Events take us 8 years ago. Women from high society condemned the brunette. After all, she grew up on a farm and was uneducated. The girl, as a representative of the capital's aristocracy, considered it a disgrace to even have Ariadne nearby. The friends discussed when Mr. Cesare planned to get married. The girl with pink hair doubted that he was planning to marry his current bride. The brunette tightly clutched the hem of her dress from such discussions. Ariadne looked at the ring on the stub of her ring finger. Mentally, the woman tried to convince herself that he loved her. And the girls just really started spreading rumors. The women assumed that the regent was also an illegitimate son. The brunette could barely contain her rage. Gossip Girl was sure that the story about the crown prince's cousin was a hoax. The woman was sure that the guys were half-brothers. The gray-haired aristocrat noted that illegitimate children will not receive God's blessing. Waving her fan, the woman noticed that such children were only the fruits of a dirty union. The aristocrat noticed that Mr. Cesare was not suitable for the role of king, because he was of unclean origin. Ariadne, unable to bear it, grabbed the woman's hair. The brunette pulled the older woman's hair and forced her to apologize. The girl did not understand how such dirty words could come out of a woman's mouth. Ariadne's face twisted with anger. The girl explained that it would be better if a purebred lady insulted her than a man. A stern voice asked what was happening here. A smile appeared on the girl's face and joy shone in her green eyes. Cesare was shocked and asked what happened to Countess Marquez. The man approached the countess and asked if everything was all right with her. The brown-haired man extended his hand, helping the woman to stand up. The countess noticed that the regent was taught manners, unlike this girl. Despair was visible in the brunette's eyes. Because the girl wanted to defend his honor, he turned sharply to the girl and pierced her with his stern gaze. The brown-haired woman explained to the girl that she shouldn't behave like that with the capital's ladies. He abruptly pulled the girl towards him and explained that they needed the support of the aristocrats. Penetrating the girl with his blue eyes, the lover told her that the countess was of more use than her. Brown explained that it was impossible to allow someone like her to take the place of the regent's wife. The man explained to Ariadne that she was behaving extremely stupidly. Cesare reminded the brunette that she was supposed to become a virtuous and modest lady, who would not be ashamed to introduce herself to high society. The brown-haired man quickly left and explained that he would accept a woman as his wife only under such conditions. All this time, Ariadne tried to comply with this condition. Despite everything, she wanted to achieve what she wanted. More than 8 years have passed since that incident, but she was still only his fiancée. Pressing the brunette in bed, Cesare explained to her that he was a benevolent ruler. The man wanted to take over the power of the deposed hereditary prince. The brunette tried to push her lover away from her and asked him to wait. Lying on the girl's chest, Cesare asked his beloved to behave decently. The girl tried to convince herself that if she tried a little more, he would definitely take her as his wife. The guy stroked his beloved's face and gently kissed her neck. The brown-haired man explained that after some thought, he decided to make Isabella his queen. At that moment, Ariadne's world collapsed. The woman asked again, not believing her lover's words. She threw the guy away from her. The brunette screamed that her sister was Alfonso's wife. Ariadne explained that marrying a widow who was not a virgin would be considered blasphemy. With difficulty remaining calm, she explained that her sister had remained celibate throughout her marriage. The man asked if she really wanted her sister to spend the rest of her life in a monastery. The brunette tried to prove to her lover that her sister was not a virgin. The woman said that Isabella had a miscarriage from the crown prince. He grabbed the girl by the shoulders. He was surprised that even among his own sisters this rule was not an exception. The brown-haired man's hands trembled, holding her shoulders, pushing the woman away from him. Cesare noticed that women were very vile creatures. Ariadne knelt down. Her hands were shaking violently. Grabbing his shirt, the brunette reminded him that the man said he loved her. Taking him by the shoulder, the woman reminded him how he told her that he would take her as his wife, and they would always be together. Tears dripped from green eyes. The brown-haired man reminded him that she was a very stupid woman and should not interfere with him. Cesare explained to the brunette that she was no match for the noble Isabella. There was horror in the woman's eyes. She realized that she had just been abandoned. Heading to her lover, Ariadne asked if he had really been planning this from the moment when the crown prince was still alive. The man laughed disgustingly and said that she had forgotten that she belonged to him from the very beginning. Cesare explained that the strongest man needed the most beautiful woman. He was very sorry that the girl's father gave him the brunette and not her sister. Cesare asked the woman if she understood how humiliating it was. The man continued to insult Ariadne. Our heroine fell to her knees, tears flowing from her eyes. The girl asked if she was really just a replacement. Smiling, the lover replied that she was not even worthy of being a replacement. Tears flowed in small streams onto the floor. The girl's body trembled violently. The brunette recalled that she participated in the coup d'etat for his sake. The girl reminded Cesare that she lost her finger for him. Ariadne screamed that the girl had thrown her reputation, marriage and life at the feet of her lover. Turning away from the brunette, the guy noticed that she had completely lost her mind. The sadness in Ariadne's eyes changed to aggression. Cesare promised to lock the brunette in the western tower. The servants quickly grabbed the brunette, obeying the master's order. Our heroine walked through the garden arm in arm with Cesare. Smiling, the man pointed to the lily of the valley and how humbly they bowed. The brown-haired man noticed that he could see his beloved in them. The woman woke up on the floor. She soon realized that it was just her dream. She heard music and realized that today was coronation day. Ariadne understood that this song was prepared for her for this day. Before the incident last night, the girl was preparing for the ceremony. She did this only for Cesare's sake. If the man had kept his word, Ariadne would now be standing next to him. But alas, lily of the valley growing on the street was not treated as carefully as roses grown in a greenhouse. The brown-haired woman raised her head and saw her sister. Isabella asked how Ariadne slept. The woman was surprised how Isabella got here. The brunette asked her sister what kind of relationship she had with Cesare. The prisoner's eyes shone with rage. Isabella asked how she dared to talk so brazenly about her husband. Drops of cold sweat began to flow down the brunette's face. Ariadne asked to be forgiven for the murder of Crown Prince Alfonso. After thinking a little, the blonde repeated the name of her ex-husband. Smiling, Isabella explained that she was talking about her husband Cesare. The bride asked her sister if it seemed to her that the status of the most noble woman in the kingdom belonged to her. Isabella asked her sister how dare she intended to become queen, leaving her behind. Grinning, the blonde explained that she should have given up this idea and walked away. The new queen asked how Ariadne dared to tarnish her name by calling her an obscene widow. The blonde clicked her heels as she approached her sister. Isabella chuckled and asked if she was ready to bear responsibility. The brunette was surprised that her sister was angry with her because of her words. Breaking into a scream, Ariadne asked about Alfonso, because he was sincerely kind to her. Raising her hands, Isabella asked if any of the men had not been kind to her. The future queen explained that if she returned everyone's feelings, she would be called a prostitute. After all, only girls of easy virtue give their body and love. Holding the hem of her dress, the brunette asked if she really loved Cesare. The woman explained to her sister that they should have gotten engaged from the very beginning many years ago. Adriana reminded her sister that she gave this marriage to her. The prisoner asked her sister why she showed up only now. Isabella looked at her sister, who was kneeling pathetically. The blonde said that in those days Cesare was just a simple count. The future queen explained that everything has changed, and after today's coronation, the man will receive full power over the throne. The blonde reminded him that his wife would become queen. Isabella regretted Alfonso's death, but he could not make her queen. The blonde believed that this reason was enough for his death. Green eyes looked at the bride with contempt. Bending over the captive, the blonde explained that she wanted to take a place near the ruler of the state. The future queen explained that Cesare was able to give her what she wanted. When leaving, the bride explained that her husband had paid a decent price to get her in return. Ariadne staggered up from the floor. The brunette explained that Cesare was everything to her. For her, a man was someone whom she valued even more than herself. The captive explained that his sister did not love him at all. The future queen separated them for her own whim. Ariadne wondered if her sister was getting married only to gain high status and take the throne. Isabella asked languidly, repeating her sister's words. A breeze rushed out of the only small window. The blonde burst into sarcastic laughter. The future queen said that Cesare came to her and began to beg her, promising to give her status so that she would be next to him. The man told his lover that every time he hugged the brunette, he imagined her sister. Cesare told the blonde that every time he hugged Ariadne, it seemed to him that he was hugging a man. The future queen did not stop mocking. The pain of the soul was expressed in the brunette's gaze. Isabella agreed with her lover that he believed that her hair was black like a crow's, and her breasts were too large and saggy like those of a cow. Isabella insisted that she was perfect for his embrace. The bride was small and sophisticated, and she wanted to be protected. The blonde boasted that her hair was like noble gold. She was sure it made her look like an angel. Isabella asked the prisoner if she was the object of something so passionately desired. The brunette's knees weakened, and the darkest memories flashed through her head. The blonde reminded her sister that even after risking her life and devoting herself to a man, she received nothing in return. The bride reminded that men do not know what gratitude is and should not be trusted. The girl explained that you can get what you want only for an appropriate fee. Ariadne fell to her knees trying to convince herself that Cesare was not like that. The brunette screamed this over and over as if trying to silence her inner voice. Looking out the window, Isabella said that Cesare desperately wanted to possess her. The blonde realized that the man would get tired of her over time. The future queen suggested that Cesare would remember Ariadne because she had been devoted to him for 14 years. Isabella explained to her sister that she did not want to worry about the future. Turning to her, the girl promised that it wouldn't hurt. A sharp sword pierced Ariadne's body. The brunette was lying on the cold floor, which was quickly filling with her blood. Her last thoughts were that life was unfair to her and her sacrifices were in vain. Ariadne didn't understand when everything went wrong. She dreamed of returning to fix everything. But there is a golden rule that for a sinful act there will be retribution, and for good deeds, benefits will be returned. This is the kind of world the brunette would dream of. She wanted so badly to believe that he existed. The girl did not receive payment for her good deeds. The goddess of justice asked if she could. The girl asked what the goddess meant. "Stick to this rule," repeated the goddess of justice. Ariadne promised to try and do it. She knew she had to deal with it. The brunette's green eyes snapped open. The girl realized that this was the place where she lived as a child. Looking at her hands, the brunette ran to the mirror and realized that she had returned to the past. The girl saw a small mole under her left eye. Ariadne doesn't understand where it came from on her face. Mother came into the room and the girls shouted her name. Cesare's phrases flashed through the girl's head. He called the girl the same creature as her whore mother. The brunette realized that this time she had to protect herself. The girl promised that in this life she would not allow herself to be neglected. Ariadne clenched her teeth and realized that today was the day her father would bring her home. The girl's mother said that they would take her away. The girl realized that this was supposed to happen today, when her father returned her home. She clenched her fists. The man with blonde hair and green eyes was named Cardinal de Mere. The man accepted church rank, like other clergy of this era. He had a wife and children. However, with the rank of cardinal, he could not afford a legal wife. Born an aristocrat, Lucretia remained with him in the status of his mistress. The woman behaved like his legal wife. The couple had 3 illegitimate children, who were treated as if they were born into the marriage. The second child was Isabella. The father valued the blonde more than anyone else, because they sang odes to her about the unearthly beauty and greatness of the main beauty of the capital. Ariadne was born a maid to a cardinal. Due to her ignoble origins, the girl was expelled from home to live on a farm. Events take us to the residence of Cardinal de Mere. His lordship was informed that Miss Ariadne had been brought. The girl opened the door and looked at her father. The man was sitting surrounded by his illegal wife and daughter. The girl approached her father, and with every moment the smile spread more and more across her face. The cardinal calmly watched his illegitimate daughter. The daughter bowed to her father and said that she was glad to see him in health. Ariadne was incredibly happy to meet Dad for the first time in a long time. The man knew that the path here was difficult for the girl. The cardinal noticed that despite the fact that the girl did not have the opportunity to get a good education, she still grew up to be quite smart. The girl was very grateful to her dad for the fact that he at least verbally pretended that he cared. Ariadne promised her father that she would work harder, study more, in order to glorify their house. She did not want to disgrace herself in the eyes of her father, brother, and sisters. The cardinal asked the brunette to try. The stepmother explained to the girl that a woman's dignity does not lie in learning and improving. The woman explained that she should take care of her parents, brothers, and sisters in their youth. The woman was sure that her stepdaughter, having matured, should take care of her husband and her children. Standing up, Lucretia asked the brunette not to engage in nonsense. Ariadne was very disappointed, because she once considered the blonde an ideal representative of the aristocracy. Now even this thought seemed absurd to the girl. Ariadne realized that in the presence of her father, who values harmony in the family, it was very easy to fall for the trick. Smiling, Ariadne bowed and promised to try to live up to Madame's expectations. The woman's face twisted. The cardinal asked his wife if she really ordered to call her Madame. The aristocrat explained that she was not a madam, and that she had already asked her stepdaughter to call her mother. With a smile on her face, the brunette thanked her mother. Footsteps were heard behind her. The girl entering asked for forgiveness for being late. Fear flashed in Ariadne's green eyes. The girl involuntarily shuddered. The sister congratulated the girl on her return to the family. With a smile, the blonde explained that if her sister had any questions or needed help, she could contact her whenever she wanted. Turning around, the brunette met Isabella's gaze. Seeing her sister, the girl's eyes narrowed in fear, and her jaw sagged a little. In her past life, Ariadne thought that she had a beautiful and ideal sister. Then the girl considered her sister a heavenly body and trembled in awe, wanting to be closer to her. The girl always followed her sister with her tail. Ariadne faded into the shadows, feeling depressed. All this led to the blonde plunging the sword into her stepsister's back with that same gorgeous smile. Ariadne promised that now she will not live to please others, as she did in her previous life. With an angelic smile, the blonde held out his hand and asked to call her sister. With a forced smile, the brunette thanked her sister. A slight smile flashed across the father's face. The cardinal, looking at how friendly everyone was incredibly happy himself. After the door to the man's room slammed shut, the family moved towards the stairs. Recently, friendly Lucretia strictly ordered her stepdaughter not to create problems for the family. The brunette accepted the remark with a bow. The girl understood that she had never done anything like this before. Taking a deep breath, Ariadne realized that it was time to start. The younger sister said that she would never recognize the girl. The little girl pointed her finger at the brunette and asked if it was her sister. The blonde didn't want to believe that her sister grew up on a farm as a commoner. The little girl noticed that Ariadne was born from exactly the same servant. Previously, the girl would have simply closed her eyes to this and not allowed herself to open her mouth. But after the rebirth, the brunette knew how to pacify her sister. Leaning towards the girl, Ariadne replied that she was very sorry. The younger sister asked again in surprise. With a smile, the brunette suggested that her mother and father were paying attention only to Isabella. Anger filled the blonde. The girl asked what someone like her could know. The girl aggressively pushed her stepsister away. Ariadne responded in surprise that she could not know anything. The younger sister aggressively pushed Isabella down the stairs. Tears appeared on her beautiful face, and her legs were covered with many abrasions. Ariadne sighed with relief that no trouble had happened in the end. The baby froze in place and her hands trembled. The cardinal sharply opened the door and asked where the noise was coming from. The father asked what happened here. The man approached and asked who did it. The youngest daughter tried to explain to her father that she did not want to. The little girl turned around, pointed her finger at her stepsister, and said that she did it. Then the cardinal angrily noticed that Ariadne had just returned to her family and was already doing similar things. The little girl chuckled, waiting for the girl to go back to the farm. Taking a step towards the cardinal, the daughter assured him that she regretted the inconvenience caused. Look into it. Ariadne explained that Sister Isabella had suffered while trying to help her. The stepsister was surprised by the brunette's phrase. The skinny woman explained to them that it was a great pity that Isabella fell down the stairs. She explained that Isabella was playing too much and just wanted to jokingly push her. Frowning his eyebrows, the man looked at his youngest daughter. The little girl tried to prove with her hands that there was nothing like that. Arabella said that her sister had forgotten that she was not going to help her, and that she was just there. Bowing her head, Ariadne explained that despite the lack of proper education, she had the right to lie to her father. She suggested that if the cardinal did not believe her, ask Isabella herself. The girl hoped that her sister would answer as she usually does. The victim explained that Arabella was just playing with them a little. Isabella asked not to scold her younger sister. A slight smile appeared on the brunette's face. The girl knew that Isabella would not miss the chance to present herself as an ideal sister in the eyes of her father. The baby rushed to her older sister, trying to tell her something. Smiling, the victim explained that everyone has the right to make mistakes, and asked her sister to be more careful next time. The cardinal forbade the culprit to leave her room for the next 2 weeks. The man told Arabella that she would pray and eat bread and water. Falling to her knees, the youngest daughter assured her father that she had done nothing of the sort. The father reminded her that she had forgotten about repentance. Despite the tears in the little girl's eyes, the man extended her sentence to 3 weeks. On her knees, Arabella clutched her dad's shirt with trembling hands. The man left without paying attention to his tears. The maids helped Isabella to her feet. The cardinal did not understand where Lucrezia was. The man was very indignant at how poorly his wife taught their children. Ariadne watched this with cold calm. The brunette's plan worked even better than she expected. But this was only the beginning of her plan. Isabella explained that she did not want to marry him. There were rumors about the future husband that he was illegitimate. The girl recalled that her father said that only she could glorify the good name of their family. Isabella noticed that the future of a simple countess would not allow her to become the most noble in the kingdom. The cardinal's stern gaze pierced his daughter. The man put his glasses on the table, explaining that he knew this. But despite his origins, Count Cesare is still the bastard of the king. The cardinal will explain that he does not want to marry his daughter to some bastard. The gaze of mother and daughter met, and Isabella nodded. Lucrezia explained to her husband that his couple should become just as illegitimate. The woman suggested taking a closer look at Ariadne. The wife explained that the girl was born from the carnal pleasures of her husband with the maid. The aristocrat suggested that the girl's mother, forgotten by everyone, runs the farm. Smiling, the man agreed to marry her to an illegitimate. The brunette suggested that if everything was as before, then she was called to this house for only one reason. Ariadne's green eyes looked calmly at the wall. She realized that the mistakes of the past could not be repeated. The girl was tormented by doubts about what she should do better to avoid an engagement to Cesare. The mudblood thought it was better for her to marry someone else or avoid making money. To her regret, Ariadne realized that her family would not allow her to marry of her own free will. Getting rich was only possible for aristocratic men. The skinny girl sat with the first one in her hand, thinking about something. To her regret, the girl realized that there would not be a beautiful ending where Cesare loves her. It was impossible for her to be happy with him for the rest of her days. Well, at least now the girl won't naively fly around in her stupid fantasies. For the girl, the most important thing was that the traitor pay for his sins. The doors opened and the maid brought new clothes for her. Ariadne remembered this woman. She was Isabella's henchwoman. The maid rather rudely ordered the brunette to change clothes and go down to dinner. That servant's name was Maleta. The girl asked the maid if she had a lot of work. Hastily leaving, Mallet gave an affirmative answer. The brunette asked if she would help her change clothes. The maid noticed that the girl was no longer a child. With a malicious smile, the red-haired girl asked if the mistress really couldn't handle this herself. The maid recalled that the girl on the farm changed her clothes herself every day. Turning away, the maid was indignant that the girl had just arrived and was already pretending to be a mistress. The brunette's hand fell on the maid's shoulder. Ariadne threw the insolent woman away. Looking at the maid with contempt, the girl explained that she should know her place. She explained to Maleta that she should not allow such behavior. Holding her cheek, the maid reminded the girl that she too was born a servant. Mallet asked her if she thought they were on the same level as her. The maid explained that the cardinal had achieved a high position as an orphan. She reminded the girl that she was not even half an aristocrat. Maleta explained to the lady that her sisters belonged to the upper class due to the origin of their mother. The maid asked how the girl was different from her then. Smiling, the servant explained that if the cardinal liked her tomorrow, he could easily give her the same child. Unable to bear such rudeness, the brunette swung her hand and hit the maid. The woman fell to the floor from the impact. Ariadne promised that the woman would pay for her mistake in insulting her father. The girl ordered the maid to watch her tongue. She ordered her to get out of here right away. A moment later, the maid ran out of the room. The brunette understood that Maleta's words made sense. Gritting her teeth, Ariadne realized that everything depended only on her father. In this life, the girl was not going to make the same mistake, trusting her life entirely to one man. The girl's hand crumpled the sheets of paper from the notepad. She realized that to become stronger, she needed an assistant. Someone shouted the girl's name and the door swung open. The maid with Isabella and Lucretia entered the room. The stepmother asked how the girl dared to raise her hand against their maid. Crying, Mallet said she was folding clothes and the girl suddenly raised her hand to her. The aristocrat did not understand what kind of atrocity this was. The woman noticed that her stepdaughter had a disgusting nature. Bowing, the brunette explained that Maleta had insulted her stepmother and father behind her back. The girl explained that she had no choice but to show the maid to her place. Lucretia was shocked that the maid said that her father had no shame in raising illegitimate children as heirs to the aristocracy. Maleta tried to justify herself by saying that it was all wrong. The maid nervously justified that she considered all members of this family to be heirs of noble blood. Ariadne replied that the maid treated her father like a homeless person. The girl recalled that Mallet said that her sisters were of noble birth because they inherited their mother's blood. The maid believed that the girl did not need to be served, since she was born from a maid and an orphan. The thin woman was sure that Lucretia was pleased to listen to such speech. The girl knew that her stepmother would not ignore this, because the problem of the cardinal's blood ties was the weakness of the entire family. Smiling, Ariadne recalled that the maid had finally said that if her father liked her, she would give birth to a child from him. The child would be of the same status as the brunette, so the maid was confident that she could treat the girl as she wanted. Mallet tried to justify herself in a trembling voice. The stepmother was furious that this trash dared to look at someone else's husband. Grabbing the woman by the red hair, the madam explained that the maid would receive 10 blows with rods. Taking the maid by the hand, they led her to punishment. Mallet begged Madame to believe her. The stepmother warned the brunette that if she finds herself in such a situation again, she should immediately report everything to her. The woman believed that it was impossible to beat the servants without warning. She roughly pointed her finger at her stepdaughter. Bowing, the girl asked for forgiveness for not thinking about it. Ariadne, as a sign of repentance, decided to go to the Ranbul charity house for 3 days. The stepmother asked again with aggression. The stepdaughter asked to let Maleta go with her as well. The girl suggested that the maid, due to her lack of education, could not take the right path. Ariadne promised to take the woman with her and convert her to religion. The stepmother extended her hand and agreed with the skinny one. Isabella invited her sister to go there for 5 days. The blonde noticed that the longer she stayed there, the more deeply she realized her guilt. After thinking a little, the girl noticed that her sister was right and it was better to go there for 5 days. The carriage was already waiting for the two girls. Our heroine left the carriage dressed in a blue cloak. The maid was shaking with fear seeing so many exhausted and dead people. They arrived at the Rambouillet charity house. The red-haired woman was shaking, trying to hold back the urge to vomit. As Ariadne expected, this place suited her plan perfectly. Leo III's wife, Queen Margaret, founded the charitable house of Rambouillet to help the poor. But the allocated budget was not enough to help all those in need. Therefore, people simply began to die due to lack of funds. Ariadne noticed that the maid was more excited than she had expected. Looking at the others, Mallet trembled violently. Turning to the servants, the brunette told her that for the next 5 days only the two of them would be here. Ariadne explained to the maid that her sister Isabella would not be able to help her. Drops of cold sweat appear on the maid's face. The girl understood perfectly well that if her sister had stood up when her mother ordered her to be punished with rods, Maleta could have escaped punishment. The brunette smiled and sarcastically pitied the woman. The maid turned around, gritting her teeth tightly. Ariadne knew that she had to go to where all the disadvantaged gathered. The only reason why Mallet was here now was that the girl's plans were to completely subjugate the maid to herself. A lot of sickly-looking people sat in one room. The brunette walked past them, not paying any attention to it. At this time, the maid was trembling violently. She was sure that this place would be perfect for her plan. In this place, the poor gathered, who were near death. Unexpectedly, Maleta heard the call of her sister. The woman froze in horror. The brunette asked if the maid recognized that little girl with fiery hair. The girl grabbed the maid tightly by the shoulder. The brunette quietly whispered in her ear if the woman knew that the girl was her sister. Ariadne warned that if she did not obey, she would leave her here. The girl covered Mallet's mouth with a smile. The brunette explained that she, like her sister, would die here in agony. Pretending that she did not understand anything, the maid asked what the lady was talking about. The woman recalled that she had already admitted her guilt and begged my lady not to do this to her. Ariadne understood that the maid was very scared, but the brunette did not intend to stop. Grabbing Maleta by the shoulder, Milady asked her if she really decided that she was lying. Squeezing the woman's head tightly, the brunette asked for an answer. The woman remembered how my lady came to Rambouillet's house. The blonde explained that she could only take one person with her. At that moment, my lady asked which of the girls was smarter and more diligent. Maleta's younger sister explained that they grew up together throughout their childhood. The little girl promised to work hard and begged him to take them both. Pushing her sister away, the girl began to suck up to the noble lady. Maleta explained that if they could only take one, then it had to be her. The girl warned that Sancha was capable of stealing. The elder sister said that Sanchi's hands were shaking, which meant that the girl would not be able to work. The girl smiled and took off her hood. Isabella was hiding under the hood. Milady was amazed by the ambition and made her choice. Bowing down, Maleta promised to try as hard as possible. The little girl wanted to stop her older sister with a trembling voice. The eldest asked Sancha to sit quietly. The girl promised the little girl to get her out of here as soon as she earned some extra money. Maleta assured that if at least one of their family made it through, they would be able to help another. The sister asked the baby to wait for her. Falling to her knees, the girl asked her sister to stop. Ariadne was shocked by this vision. Her head began to spin. The maid immediately ran up and asked if everything was all right with the lady. Mallet explained that for a moment Milady seemed dumbfounded. The brunette held her head, not understanding what it was. She couldn't tell if it was an illusion or the past of the two. Ariadne decided to check it out and went to Sancha. Sitting down on her knees next to the baby, the brunette asked how she was feeling. Ariadne asked the little girl to answer just one question. The girl asked the little girl if she had a sister who worked as a servant in the house of aristocrats. With a sad look, the little girl nodded. The brunette asked the child if her sister told her that if one achieves something, she will help the other. Surprise appeared on the child's face. Stuttering, Sancha asked how the girl found out about this. A chill ran through the girl's entire body. The brunette realized that what she saw was true. Having bowed to the girls, she thanked Sancha for her answer and wished her to get better. In a hoarse voice, the little girl with copper hair asked permission to talk to her sister. The girl crawled several meters along the dirty floor. With her eyes downcast, Sancha said that after her sister left for a rich house, they never saw her again. The skinny little girl asked permission to talk to Melita if it was possible. Hanging over Sancha, the brunette asked in surprise whether her older sister had never contacted her. A smile appeared on the child's face. She confirmed that today she and her sister met for the first time after a long separation. Sanchia explained that she was very grateful that her sister was there to meet her. Ariadne asked if she really didn't help the thin woman. The girl asked again in surprise and gave an affirmative answer. All the clothes on the maid's younger sister were torn, and her body was covered with dirt. Calling the maid to her, Ariadne asked if she really didn't know the baby. Visibly nervous, Mallet tried to justify herself. The older sister timidly squeezed out that the girl was unfamiliar to her. Biting her lip, Sancha begged her mistress to help and save her. Having fallen at the feet of the brunette, the girl begged to help her get her out of here. Milady ordered the maid to call one of the caretakers here. The sun was setting behind the horizon, turning the sky orange. Sitting under a large tree, Ariadne realized that she was hungry. The brunette took the baby with her and asked her to give her some more food. The brunette explained that despite the fact that even though the girl was the daughter of his lordship, he could not treat the poor in a special way. Then the girl decided to give the skinny woman her today's food. Ariadne planned to help Sanchia only once, but it was already the third day. Leaning on a majestically standing tree, the girl watched the sunset. The brunette was still tormented by the question of what she saw then. Ariadne assumed that these were Mileta's memories. The girl then touched the maid again, but nothing else happened. The brunette suggested that this ability was not always dependent on touch. She couldn't understand what kind of gift it was. Someone handed the girl a ripe apple. Looking up, Ariadne realized that it was none other than Prince Alfonso. The blonde asked the girl if she would like this apple. In a past life, Ariadne pushed a guy to death with her own hands. But fortunately, she returned to a time when she had not yet sinned. The smiling brunette thanked the prince, picking up a juicy apple. Alfonso sat down next to her. Having bitten off a piece of ripe fruit, the girl realized that this was her chance for a new life. Having finished the treat, the girl threw the head of cabbage onto the withered grass. It was very unexpected for Ariadne to meet a guy here. The brunette realized that she might never have the chance to meet the prince in person again. Smiling, the girl explained that she had been starving for 3 days, but thanks to him she had a little snack. The prince asked if it was true that the skinny woman gave her food to a sick child. Tucking her luxurious hair behind her ear, the brunette replied that it was true. The girl thought about what to start a conversation about in order to get closer to His Majesty. Alfonso noticed that she really was amazing. Averting his eyes, the blonde suggested that he would not be able to give away his food. The girl explained that the bread here was simply tasteless, and because of this she gave in. She explained that if the food here was better, she would hardly have done the same. Alfonso asked her if the bread was really tasteless. Ariadne explained that there was no milk or butter in the bread, and only the taste of wheat and salt was felt. The brunette was glad that she didn't have to act as if she knew there was a prince in front of her. The guy asked how long their friend would stay here. Smiling, the girl explained that she would stay here until tomorrow. The prince asked if she would continue to give her food to the sick girl. The brunette said that she wanted to help the baby only until today. But since the prince treated Ariadne to such a delicious apple, she now planned to do without food tomorrow. A sincere smile appeared on the prince's face. He took a napkin with cookies out of his pocket. The blonde explained that it would be nice if the girl could eat something else. The guy insisted that he had nothing other than that. To Ariadne's surprise, getting closer to the guy turned out to be much easier than she expected. Taking the treat, the girl thanked her and explained that she would eat everything with pleasure. The girl dusted off her dress and said that it was time for her to go. The blonde was surprised that his new acquaintance was already leaving. Ariadne explained that she needed to return before they noticed her absence from class. She briefly said goodbye to the guy, and she didn't know how soon she would have such an opportunity again. The girl was glad that they were able to talk with the prince. The brunette understood that she needed to leave a slight trail of regret. Alfonso stopped the girl to find out her name. Smiling, she introduced herself as Ariadne de Mare. Soon the girl returned to the cardinal's residence. The stepmother asked who it was with the girl. The brunette explained that she brought the baby from a charity home. Lucrezia angrily asked her stepdaughter who she was to make a decision about hiring servants. The woman noticed that the girl apologized only in words, but in reality she continues to do whatever she wants. Sadness appeared in Sanchi's eyes. Bowing, Ariadne handed her a napkin and asked her to look at it. The woman was sure that she would not be fooled. There was great surprise on the face of the sister and stepmother. They noticed that this thing belonged to Prince Alfonso. Isabella asked where the brunette got it from. Isabella, as expected, immediately understood everything. Ariadne explained that she met the prince by chance. The stepdaughter recalled that the charity house was under the patronage of the queen. The skinny girl assumed that this was a planned visit. The brunette explained that she expressed a desire to take care of this girl, and the prince decided that she would take her home and give her a job. And she explained that the prince knew about the good deeds of Cardinal de Marais. His Majesty gave his handkerchief as a token of gratitude. The skinny woman explained that if she had refused to accept the gift, she would have tarnished the honor of the family. Ariadne knew that this was a complete lie. The woman asked if the stepdaughter really thought that if the prince said so, then she could ignore the mistress of the house. The stepmother asked if she had decided to bring the ragged woman here to mock her. The woman roughly pushed her stepdaughter away and ordered the baby to be taken out immediately. Lucretia told the brunette to get out along with the ragged girl. Ariadne was surprised at how stubborn the woman was. The girl understood that if Sancha was kicked out, it would be more difficult for her alone. Isabella announced that she also wanted to go to Rambouillet. The woman roughly spanked her daughter, explaining that there was no place for people like her. The Duchess noticed that there were tea parties to meet with the prince. The blonde with tears in her eyes said that she agreed not to go there. The girl set the condition that then the girl would stay with them. Isabella explained that when meeting with the prince, she would need to talk about something. The daughter understood that her father would not allow her to meet Alfonso. The blonde told her mom that she should have thought about this in advance. Ariadne realized that thanks to stupid Isabella, everything had become much easier. Most likely, Sancha will be able to serve in their house. The brunette planned to later make the baby her personal maid. Isabella snatched the handkerchief, noticing that her sister had done a good job. The skinny girl extended her hand to return the scarf. The girl clenched her hand into a fist, realizing that her life was still the same as it was before. Something was given, and something was taken away. Sancha thanked the lady for saving her. The baby promised to definitely repay the brunette for this. Ariadne looked tenderly at the baby and gently stroked her copper hair. A few days later, the brunette heard a conversation between her stepmother and sister. Isabella asked her mother why the queen invited them so suddenly. The woman suggested that perhaps the queen had heard about their beautiful Isabella and wanted to see her. The blonde asked if the prince would be there. Isabella suggested that she should have brought a handkerchief. Ariadne's face twisted with anger. The girl did not remember these two being called to the palace in a past life. The brunette entered the room. Mallet said that Madame ordered the girl to be collected for the exit. The little girl explained that a carriage had arrived from the royal palace. She said that the royal family had ordered Miss Ariadne to be brought. The brunette realized that she was going to the palace with Lucretia and Isabella. She looked at the many luxurious dresses. The lady chuckled and invited Sancha to play dress-up with her. According to the sacred scripture Escagon, the saint sacrificed himself twice. The first time he was branded by the people and died alone. However, the miracle of Sunday was revealed. The second sacrifice was made to save the people from God's punishment that descended on the mainland. Only after the second sacrifice did Escagon receive veneration from Leskov. At least the aristocracy of San Carlo was closer to the mass dedicated to his final fate. Today at the liturgy, the words about the first sacrifice were raised. The service was conducted in the native language of Queen Margaret, who originated from the kingdom of Caligo. The brunette realized that her family couldn't understand a word. No one would have thought that about her family. The girls knew that Lucrezia had actually given up studying the Caligo language, and Isabella had just begun studying it. The brunette saw a woman sitting in front of her and realized that it was Queen Margarita. In a past life, the girl had seen this image only in portraits. The paintings could not convey the noble aura of the queen to those around her. The scripture Escagon is about the very donation of sinful souls. The prayer ended with the question of what the prophet was thinking when he gave all of himself for the good of a selfish, immoral, and stupid people. The priest read that people who had more wealth, status, and faith than him had to take care of those who could not. The priest reminded that every person should strive to do righteous deeds. Lucretia, Isabella, and Ariadne said Amen at the end of the prayer. Margarita turned and looked sternly at the guests. As soon as the queen looked in their direction, Isabella took on a touching look with a smile. The parishioners began to whisper among themselves. The blonde said that she was grateful that the queen personally invited them to the service about the sacrifice of Escagon. And she told Mother that she really liked this part. Mother noted with pleasure that learning the Caligo language had benefited the blonde. Lucretia asked her daughter what she liked most. Isabella explained to her mother that the final part about the second victim was closer to her heart. Ariadne realized that today's mass was dedicated to the first victim, and the sister was talking about another. The blonde explained that after the death of Yeska, all the people came out to mourn him. She told how happy the prophet was to hear grief over his own death. Those sitting in confession were shocked by ignorance. One of the parishioners said that the blonde was jealous of his glory after death, instead of being grateful for the sacrifice he made. The second parishioner asked how old this girl was that she was acting so immature. The brunette was rejoicing that her sister would still remember this. After all, now the cardinal's family will fall into disrepute. Ariadne said that she was close in spirit to the courage of Yeska. The girl noticed that the man was simply amazing. Placing her hands on her chest, the brunette suggested how terrible it was for the prophet to die. The woman who came to confession noticed how young and good-natured the stranger was, and how strong her faith in God was. Sighing with relief, Ariadne hoped that this should have been enough to stop rumors about the lack of education of the cardinal's family. The woman clapped her hands and asked everyone present to go into the small hall, and said that tea drinking would begin soon. The queen noticed how well the second daughter understood the Caligo language. Members of the Cardinal de Marais family were introduced to Her Majesty. The woman reported that she saw them at Mass. Margarita announced that they were very glad that the family of Cardinal de Marais had arrived at the tea party, and invited them to sit at the table. Countess Marquez noticed that Miss Isabella had a very beautiful dress. Ariadne was surprised to meet this woman here. The countess asked Isabella who sewed it for her. Taking hold of the hem of her dress, the blonde said that it was the work of their family dressmaker. Covering herself with a fan, the woman noticed that the dressmaker had golden hands. Marquez even regretted a little that she wanted, but could not use the services of such a talented dressmaker. Lucrezia said that she was always glad to see the countess, and the woman could turn to their employee. The countess smiled, noting that the worker had not yet finished sewing a dress for her second daughter. Marquez explained that she did not want to add extra work to the dressmaker. The aristocrat realized that having looked closely at how different the appearance of her two daughters was, the gray-haired woman took into account how uneducated the first one showed herself. The woman realized that her eldest daughter did not measure up, but Lucretia was still in an illegal marriage and continued to care for only one of her daughters. The countess noted that a virtuous wife should take care of all children, and considered anything else unacceptable. Marquez explained that the girl was not guilty of anything. Isabella tried to justify her mother, and explained that her sister had recently returned from the village where she had been for health reasons. The blonde noticed that because of this, her sister did not have many clothes and had recently just started sewing. Isabella promised to lend her sister her dresses for a while. With a kind smile, the blonde explained that she and her sister were almost the same age and sisters were supposed to share. She assumed that there was a misunderstanding, because her previous clothes were tailored to her modest taste. Nervously squeezing her hands, the sister asked Ariadne if she was telling the truth. It became clear to the brunette what her sister's intention was. Isabella was waiting for her correct answer. The girl turned to her sister and noticed that this outfit was even too ideal for someone like her. The skinny woman stood up, showing the hem of her dress. Surprise was written on the face of the capital's aristocracy. The brunette explained that she didn't know the dress belonged to her sister. The girl noticed that she still really liked the outfit. The brunette lifted her dress as if deliberately showing a lot of dirty marks. Ariadne wanted to show them something, and so she decided to stand up. She expected her sister to appreciate such an answer. The women began to whisper, noticing stains as if from long work in the kitchen and yellow spots. The brown-eyed woman assumed that these were servants' clothes. Ariadne smiled when she heard the woman suggest that the cardinal's daughter was being raised as a servant. One of the women asked Isabella if her sister was wearing her clothes for her. The queen ordered everyone to calm down. The woman told Lucretia that she had a question for her eldest daughter. The queen asked Isabella whether she had previously worn a petticoat. Isabella tried to answer something, but only unintelligible babble came out of her mouth. Margarita ordered Madame de Rossi to take her eldest daughter and return home. Ariadne was jubilant when she realized that her stepmother was openly treated as a mistress. The stepdaughter suggested that this was supposed to be a shame for Lucretia. The queen asked the maid to take her second daughter and give her a clean petticoat. The woman in the red dress took orders from Her Majesty, and she led the brunette along the endless corridors of the castle. Ariadne could not believe that she was back in the queen's palace. The girl remembered that she had been here for 9 years as Cesare's bride. Squeezing the hem of her dress, the girl thought about how she would like to erase this memory of hers. The girl accidentally collided with the maid. I forgot about my headache. The girl noticed that the crown prince was coming. The skinny girl shouted the name of a friend. The guy was clearly happy and surprised to see Ariadne here. The brunette asked Alfonso if he was really a prince. The woman made a remark that the girl behaved very ill-mannered. The maid reported that in front of her stood the only heir of King Leo III and Her Majesty Margaret. The woman noticed that the guy should have been called His Majesty Prince Alfonso de Carlo. Usually a cardinal's daughter was not supposed to bow to the courtyard servants. This woman was Her Majesty's trusted servant, so everything that Carla saw and heard would reach the queen. Bowing, the brunette explained that she had been discourteous and offered her deepest apologies. Princip muttered that he did not specifically talk about his status then. The guy said that the girl was his friend. Carla explained to His Majesty that such friendship was unacceptable. The blonde asked if the one who accepts him, I don't know his status, couldn't be his friend. The maid explained to the prince that people belong to different levels of society depending on their status for a reason. The maid noticed that the guy should not have forgotten about his place. The brunette realized that her friend was still an ungrateful child. This could be understood just by looking at his dissatisfied and pouty expression on his face. The prince looked at Ariadne with a smile. Alfonso grabbed the girl's hand and invited her to go for a run. Carla asked where they were going. Having reached the greenhouse, the guy looked around. During the escape, the brunette lost her breath and tried to catch her breath. Alfonso felt awkward when he noticed that he was still holding the girl's hand. At the same moment, the guy unclenched his fingers, releasing his gentle hand. The girl noticed that His Majesty was reacting too openly. Alfonso asked to be called by his first name. Ariadne explained that she was not allowed to show him such disrespect. He assured the girl that she did not have to communicate with him like that. Smiling, the girl suggested choosing fictitious names for herself. Ariadne asked if Alfonso wanted to call her by some affectionate nickname. He jokingly asked if the girl was too confident in herself. The brunette explained that if she continues to call him by another name when they meet, they will not understand that he is a prince. Ariadne understood the young man who wanted to be accepted as he was. For the prince, a secret relationship was a temptation that would be difficult for him to refuse. The guy smiled and agreed to do so. The girl suggested syllables from his full name. The blonde noticed that it sounded like a nickname. The girl gently placed her hand on her friend's hand. She gently ran over his palm, writing out a word. The girl wrote dear, which translated as dear. In surprise, the guy squeezed his palm tightly. Feeling a little sad, the guy warned that he wanted to tell me something else. Alfonso explained that the queen called the girl today thanks to him. The blonde told his mother to meet Ariadne at a charity house. With sadness, the prince explained that no matter where he met anyone, his mother's reported everything. Alfonso was surprised that the story about Ariadne attracted her attention. The girl was surprised, because before it seemed to her that he was not so attentive to his surroundings. The thin girl was surprised how well the prince was aware of what was happening around him. The guy understood that Margarita was doing this out of concern for him. Pressing his hands to his chest, the blonde explained that sometimes it is. The prince's hands shook sharply. He felt someone's gaze. Turning to his friend, Alfonso noticed that he was talking too much about himself and suggested turning the conversation to something else. Sky-blue eyes snapped open. The brunette gently stroked the guy's head. Stroking her blonde, silky hair, Ariadne suggested that it was hard. The brunette suggested that Lady Carla was probably already looking for her. The girl explained that Her Majesty the Queen said that she would give her other clothes. Ariadne said goodbye to her friend, explaining that she already had to go. Events take us to the residence of the cardinal. Lucretia was replaying recent events in her head. She was outraged that they addressed her as the cardinal's mistress right in public. The blonde did not understand how they dared to say such things to the lady from Etruscan. The woman angrily broke the vase. Ariadne bowed and told her mother that she had returned. The stepmother asked the girl if she really thought that she was her mother, and it was allowed to address her that way. Lucrezia asked whether her stepdaughter stained her dress on purpose. The brunette explained that she could not do this, because she had no other clothes. The blonde angrily asked who was responsible for this outfit. The woman angrily ordered to search the skinny woman's room and find a real petticoat. Ariadne watched her stepmother's fury with a smile. She knew that even if she opened the room upside down, she wouldn't find anything there. The thin woman was already planning to silence stupid Lucrezia this time. Mallet wanted to explain to Madame The maid claimed that she knew who was to blame. Frightened, the thin woman realized that she had forgotten to take care of Miletta's silence. Pointing her finger at Sansia, the maid claimed that it was the little girl who was to blame for everything. The girl turned to the savior, looking at her with a pleading look. The mistress grabbed Sancha by the hair and accused her of stealing her petticoat. The baby convinced Lucretia that she did not do this. Mallet, taking the petticoat, convinced that it was in the girl's things. Ariadne realized that she managed to avoid suspicion, and by doing this she brought shame on Lucretia in front of everyone. The stepmother beat the little maid severely. The brunette remembered how the girl promised to repay her. The girl was torn by rage and her heart was pounding wildly, and her hands were shaking violently. The voices in her head reminded the girl of her meeting with the goddess before her rebirth. The woman stuck a sharp feather into the fragile body. Drops of blood slowly dripped onto the floor. Ariadne took the blow and grimaced greatly in pain. She looked at the lady's puncture wound and asked why she sacrificed herself. The brunette asked the little girl to tell them the truth. Squeezing Ariadne's hand, the girl shook her head negatively. The stepmother swung again, noticing that the girl decided to mock her. The cardinal came out of his office and asked where all the noise was coming from. The man sternly asked how his beloved dared to do such a thing in the house. The wife made an excuse that her husband did not know what happened to her today. During a quarrel between her parents, the girl grabbed Sancha and ran up the stairs. The baby was trembling and reminded the lady that she needed to quickly apply ointment to her wounded shoulder. Ariadne explained to the girl that she had to tell the truth, because the brunette felt a strong sense of guilt. Sancha explained that the lady saved her life, and the girl was a benefactor for her. She promised the lady to repay her for everything, and to always be on her side. Tears appeared in the green eyes of our heroine. Previously, neither her family nor her lover needed her. No one was ever on her side. Ariadne was ashamed that she let Sancho into this house only for selfish purposes. Tears rolled down the girl's face in small streams. She realized that her intentions were not good at all. The lady squeezed the baby tightly and asked her forgiveness. The brunette promised her that from now on she would always protect the girl. Ariadne promised that she would make Miletta leave her sister alone, and she promised that no one would threaten them again. Several days have passed since the incident. The brunette was touching her ring finger. Recently it seemed to the girl that this finger was dangling on a small piece of skin. Sancha explained to the lady that if she touched the place where the insect had bitten, it would only get worse. The brunette asked the baby to look, because it seemed to her that the finger seemed to have become larger. The little girl asked if the girl really wanted to say that the finger had become so swollen in just one day. Sitting down on the bed, Ariadne noticed that the girl was not at all what she thought she was when she first met. Sansia asked what the mistress's first impression of her was. The lady compared the girl to an abandoned kitten that she picked up on the street. The brunette noticed that now the girl had become completely different, with a very sharp tongue. It was time to go to Caligo language classes. Ariadne realized that it was time for her to go and promised Sancha to return soon. The girl waved her hand in a friendly manner. The brunette didn't even notice how quickly the time spent talking with Sancha flew by. She dreamed with pleasure what they would do after the lesson. The brunette's thoughts were interrupted by her stepmother's conversation with her father. Lucrezia wondered whether the girl had to live here. The brunette turned around at the sound and saw her stepmother. The cardinal reminded his wife that it was originally her idea to bring Ariadne here. The woman argued that her stepdaughter was very stubborn and difficult to keep track of. The father suggested quickly marrying his daughter to Count Cesare. The only reason why Cardinal de Mar did not want to give Isabella to Cesare was because of her high value. The girl was so valuable to her father that he was simply sorry to marry her to Cesare. The man considered his daughter his most useful investment. The man wanted to sell her more profitably. He trained, raised, groomed, and cherished Isabella. All this was necessary in order to exchange the blonde for wealth and honor from society. The cardinal considered the most suitable option for the exchange to be the only heir to the throne, Prince Alfonso. Ariadne thought that if it was all about Isabella's value, then she should also become valuable. If this is not enough for the father, then the brunette will have to devalue Isabella. The girl hurriedly went down the stairs because she knew that she was late for class. Putting a smile on her face, Ariadne entered the office. The girl asked if today was a special day. She said that today it was necessary to finish the lesson quickly. The teacher greeted the girl in Coligo language. The brunette bowed and apologized for interfering. The sisters were surprised to see the girl here. The teacher noticed that the brunette's pronunciation was simply magnificent. The woman asked the girl where she had previously studied the language. The girl said with a smile that among the people she grew up with, there was one person who knew Caligo well. Ariadne explained that she didn't know grammar or proper expression before. She said that after studying with Madame, she mastered everything she needed. The teacher's eyes lit up from such compliments. Having put down the book, the woman noticed that Mrs. Ariadne spoke another language perfectly, and since the brunette still had excellent manners, the teacher said that she was very talented. Arabella asked her sister how she knew how to speak a foreign language so well. The little girl asked what kind of tricks the girl was doing. The brunette quickly covered Arabella's mouth with her hand. Ariadne explained that it is not good to shout like that in front of the teacher. The teacher noticed that Miss Ariadne had not made her debut yet. The woman suggested that the brunette was already completely ready to enter secular society. Isabella was sure that she should receive this attention. The blonde didn't understand how someone like that could claim more attention. Isabella wanted the eyes of all the residents of San Carlo to be focused only on her today. As the blonde got ready, she pulled the corset tightly, and the tip of the cross barely touched her chest. She wanted the makeup to be lined with pearl powder from Toronto. The girl applied blush from Gaeta to her lips and cheeks. The blush was created from rose water. Looking into the small pink mirror, Isabella decided that she was fully ready to go out. In the Etruscan kingdom, government was based on religion. Royalty and nobles were souls who had accumulated a lot of virtue in a past life and received favor in the present. The ordinary people included those who had sinned in their previous life. From this, it followed that noble souls must guide and control sinners. Because of this, in the Etruscan kingdom, the religion that gave power to the rulers was obliged to be absolute. Because of this, one of the very important events is held in this kingdom. Once a month, royalty, nobles, and commoners gathered together. Everyone gathers here to listen to the High Mass, where the cardinal conveys the words of the Holy Spirit. The door of the monastery opened and the family entered. The woman in the red robe was delighted that Isabella de Marais had come. The women quietly discussed the blue dress and gold corset around the blonde's neck. The cardinal's eldest daughter was so beautiful today that it was difficult to even express in words. The blonde was jubilant, because all eyes were focused only on her. With her head held high, the girl walked through the hall. All the men were delighted with her beauty. Soon the crowd's gaze turned to Ariadne. People were discussing who was next to Isabella. Turning around, the blonde noticed her homely sister. A smile appeared on the girl's face, because her stepsister had her hair tied up, a dull dress and a simple silver cross. The blonde turned away and walked on. Ariadne realized how stupid Isabella was. After all, no matter how much the blonde flaunts expensive things, no one will remember her. The brunette realized that if the events in this life repeat the events of the past, then today this should happen. Today there is to be a blasphemy that will shake the foundations of the kingdom. This event will be decisive for the brunette and will lead to her engagement to Cesare. In a past life, the Etruscan king Leo III saved a cardinal who was in trouble because of this incident. After this, the king made offers to his father as payment for his help. His Majesty asked the cardinal to empower his illegitimate son, who had no power. Because of this, the illegitimate son of the ruler of the kingdom was involved with someone like her. The girl understood that if she couldn't change the past from this moment, then she would have to marry Cesare and everything would happen again. Squeezing the hem of her dress, the girl begged for the events of the past to be repeated today as well as then. The brown-haired man looked at Isabella de Marais and realized that this was the right thing for him. Cesare de Como was the most handsome man in San Carlo. In the guy's hands were the rarest jewels, outstanding horses, beautiful women. First of all, the brown-haired man was the favorite son of the king and his adored mistress Countess Rubina. The guy had a lot of envious people. Cesare was sure that the most beautiful girl in San Carlo was worthy of becoming his wife. He wanted to soon ask Cardinal de Marais for the girl's hand again. The brown-haired man planned to try his luck next month by informing his father about the upcoming wedding. Cesare heard his brother laugh. It infuriated him that only Alfonso could be near his father. The illegitimate's face twisted with anger, and his hands clenched sharply. Cesare, being illegitimate, could only be recognized as the king's heir in his mother's secret room. The brown-haired man asked his mother who it was in the black, nondescript outfit with the de Marais family. Rubina told her son that this was Cardinal's second daughter from his other mistress. The woman asked if Cesare had heard that the girl had managed to attract the attention of Queen Margaret. The brown-haired man asked what was so special about the brunette. Rubina asked her son not to judge a person by his appearance. The woman noticed that if the queen was able to please this person, then she was not so simple. Cesare chuckled displeasedly and asked where the woman could use her mind. Having put down the nail file, the mother asked her son if he really thought that his mother was able to touch the throne, only thanks to her beautiful face. Frowning a little, the brown-haired man asked if this was not true. The brown-haired man drew her attention to the fact that the sermon had already begun. The guy recognized Apostolus Reto from the crowd. Apostolus Reto gained great fame among the poor and needy. Contrary to the teachings of faith, where the birth of a commoner was interpreted by his excessive sinfulness in a past life, the man spoke with his lips a previously unheard-of heresy. The apostle believed that even the most humble sinners could become sons of God. Asreto insisted that they should learn the teachings of the Holy Spirit and follow them in their present life. According to the apostle, every illegitimate child could receive a high status. The man began his speech. The congregation noticed that this speech contradicted the words of the Bible. The apostle argued that the Savior was born a simple man, but he was called saints and endowed with the same power as God. The cardinal believed that Asreto was a heretic. After all, the philosophy of preaching that contradicted the statutes of their country. The cardinal did not understand how a man dared to preach a sermon that contradicted their faith at the mass he led. The man realized that if he did nothing, he too would be called a heretic. The problem was that the apostle was personally invited to the mass by His Holiness. The cardinal understood that his attempt to stop the sermon would be regarded as an insult to the ruler. The priest did not understand what to do. He laid his hand on the Bible scripture and said that Iaskagon was the Son of Man. Opening the door, Ariadne ordered the apostle to be ashamed of God. The girl confidently walked towards the preacher. The cardinal and parishioners turned nervously to the girl. The brunette asked the man who he was in order to contradict the Holy Scriptures. Thin woman recalled that, according to the sacred scripture, Yeska commanded, "Go and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit." Asreto explained that the ever-existing God created his son from nothingness. The man explained that it was logical that Iasak was the creation of God. Ariadne asked who he was that he dared to claim that he knew the truth better than Saint Manuel and Saint Sandro, who served him. He explained that he was nothing more than a resident of an island village, comprehending the word of God and seeking the truth. The blonde explained that the great Holy Spirit said, "I am the only God and creator of all things." Asreto asked if they didn't all worship the one and only Almighty God. The girl recalled that in Paulo's Gospel, chapter 3, verse 16, describes Yeska, "The saint appeared in the flesh of the Father, the Holy Spirit." The confession became quiet, and tension flew in the air. Ariadne explained that Esseka had said that the Holy Spirit was his son. The girl asked Asreto if he really considered himself to know more than Paulo, grabbing the man and pulling him to her. The girl asked him if he really decided to ignore the Holy Scriptures. Then there was a noise in the hall. Everyone was discussing the fact that the man was a heretic. The out-of-breath man nervously informed the king that the situation downstairs was dire. The messenger asked the king whether it was worth taking this man out of the building. Leo asked which of the two the man meant. The messenger explained that it was the girl who was interfering with the sermon. The king smiled. He noticed that the apostle could have been escorted out earlier. The man did not understand why that amazing girl could be exposed. The king asked Margarita to find out what family this girl was from. Alfonso explained to his father that the girl's name was Ariadne. Lev asked again. Turning around, the son replied that the girl was his most beloved friend. The girl's green eyes pierced Asfiro right through. She held the preacher by the collar and shook him, accusing him of ignoring the Holy Scriptures. The cardinal, gritting his teeth tightly, realized that there was no place for someone like Ariadne. The apostle was amazed by the act of a rootless brat in the person of an illegitimate commoner, and the cardinal, tightly gripping the railing with his hand, realized that he had to fix everything before it was too late. A blond man rushed in and asked where the accused sinner Alejandro was. The man announced that he had come here to punish this heretic on the orders of the head of the church, Louis. A whisper passed through the crowd. The cardinal was shocked that the inquisitor had arrived here. The man didn't understand how he found out so quickly about everything that was happening here. Hastily, the cardinal left his seat, realizing that he should have explained himself before the situation became even more complicated. The inquisitor ordered the accused to be brought forward. The blonde announced that the Council of Trevero, after discussion, had reached a theological conclusion that the Asoreto school, which denies the unity of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, was declared a heresy that distorts the Holy Scriptures. The man was declared a heretic who misled the common people. Alejandra was immediately excommunicated. The inquisitor said that Cardinal de Mere pointed his finger at him, but the man ran up, begging to listen to him. The inquisitor reported that the cardinal would also be held accountable for the heretics preaching in the Great Basilica. De Mere held his head in his hands, realizing that his guilt would be deliberately embellished in order to protect him in church matters. The man understood that if the inquisitor personally came here as a representative, this meant that everything the inquisitor said would be undeniable. The cardinal understood that he needed to calmly explain everything without provoking him. He clenched his fists resolutely. De Mere, stuttering a little, began to explain that there had been some kind of misunderstanding, that he did not invite this heretic to preach. At this time, Ariadne decisively approached and asked the gentleman to listen to her. The preaching of the Apostle Asoreto and the appearance of the inquisitor to punish him all already happened in the girl's past life. But for the skinny woman, from that moment on the gambling began. The inquisitor asked how a girl from a lower class could interfere in such a matter. Putting her hand on her heart, the brunette explained to him that she was the second daughter of the cardinal. Ariadne explained that his lordship did not intend to cooperate with the accused Alejandro. The girl explained that her father was afraid of the heresies being presented and therefore prepared to refute it. Grabbing his daughter, the cardinal asked her to shut up. The man asked the brunette if she understood what she just said. The father explained to Ariadne that she should not speak out so freely. The inquisitor asked if the young girl had decided to intercede. The inquisitor was surprised that they decided to joke with him. The man noticed that not only did the cardinal call the heretic to give a sermon, but he also brought his daughter, who turned the Mass into children's games. The inquisitor suggested that Cardinal de Mere and Miss de Mere were mocking the High Mass. He roughly pointed his finger at them. Clutching the hem of her dress tightly, the girl realized that the man considered this to be rude. The girl understood that if she stumbled in front of him now, her plan would fail and it would be the end for her. The brunette explained to His Eminence that she behaves this way only out of respect for the head of the church. Ariadne explained that the head of the church personally invited the apostle to San Carlo. She noted that if the cardinal had begun to object before the sermon began, how would His Holiness react to this? The inquisitors froze abruptly because the girl's words put him into a stupor. Ariadne realized that everything was going according to plan. She noticed that the cardinal was deeply concerned about the ideas of the apostle, and therefore prepared in advance. Skinny explained that her father had collected all the evidence for today's sermon for a public refutation. Ariadne asked her father if this was true. The cardinal panicked greatly. "I don't know what to answer." He replied that his daughter was right. The priest was suspicious as to why His Holiness had invited Asoreto to give a sermon on such a day. The cardinal suggested that the head of the church was marred by the desecration of their sacred scriptures. The surprised inquisitor asked if the man was telling the truth. The inquisitor turned around and looked at the flock. The parishioners began to talk about how the girl had done a great job of stopping the heretic right in the middle of the sermon. That Ariadne literally saved the good name of San Carlo. People believed that if it were not for the girl's act, they would have listened to the sermon of this heretic until the arrival of the inquisitor. It was noted that the girl respected the sacred description as much as it was due to the daughter of a cardinal. Sweat began to run down the inquisitor's face. The man announced that his business here was finished for today. Ariadne realized that she was able to prove her worth to her father in the eyes of all the residents of San Carlo. The most important thing for the brunette was that she managed to eliminate the reason for the engagement. Ariadne realized that now she could not marry Cesare. The events are moved to the king's audience hall. Lev noticed that this girl was not as simple as it turned out initially. The king liked the spectacle, as if he had watched an act of a play. Leo III was even ready to believe that all this had been prepared in advance with the head of the church. The messenger quoted that reality can be more dramatic than fictional stories. The king believed that a girl with such strong faith was worthy of a reward. Leo scratched his beard in thought, wondering what gift would be suitable for the young lady. The boy assured that jewelry or a dress would suit the young girl, and he offered to give her the blue heart of the ocean depths. Blue Heart of the Deep Ocean was a large, rare sapphire of deep blue color. According to legend, a school of dolphins swam to the shore and, leaving the decorations, immediately disappeared. The deep beauty of the stone, combined with mysterious legends, made the stone desired by all luxury lovers unique. Sapphire became the most desired jewel for Countess Rubina, who was the king's mistress. It was surprising that the king's favorite would have to give up some girl's jewelry. The guy noticed that this gift was too valuable. Smiling, His Majesty noticed that Rubina also desperately wanted to get that stone. Leo was not sure that if he gave a sapphire to the cardinal's second daughter, whether she would return it after she got married. The king believed that it would be a great success if Cesare married the girl to her. The cardinal was alone in the study with his daughter. He was looking out the window, and without looking up from contemplating the view, I asked my daughter where she got such ideas from. Bowing her head, Ariadne explained that she read books in his house so as not to get bored. Turning around, the father asked the girl if she had thought of all this herself. Ariadne understood that these were not the kind of books that a 15-year-old child could comprehend on his own. The brunette assumed that Dad would certainly not believe her. The daughter explained that she was greatly impressed by records on the essence of a saint, Wycliffe and Pelagius's treatise on the Trinity. The man was sincerely surprised and asked if Ariadne had read all this. Expecting her father's distrust, the girl quoted rows from the book. The brunette understood that the book was not so popular now. The girl knew that in a few years these books would be mandatory reading for every aristocrat. The cardinal asked his daughter if she wanted to go to the great temple to study theology. Ariadne understood that she should not show her true intentions. The girl explained that she would be ashamed due to her lack of knowledge. The brunette asked permission to continue studying books at home, but it was unclear what to ask him. The father allowed the girl to go. Bowing, the girl realized that it turned out to be much easier than she thought. She was pleased with herself. When Ariadne was heading towards the exit, her father turned to her. The girl froze in place, not understanding what doubts he might still have. Turning around, the brunette bowed again. For the first time in a long time, the girl heard praise from her father. Red wine slowly flowed down the table onto the floor from an overturned glass. Wine the color of blood also poured into the glass. Rubina asked her son if he had heard the story about the second daughter of Cardinal de Mar. The guy emptied his glass in large gulps. The woman said that the girl was a very religious girl and was called the Savior of San Carlo. Rubina said it was expected that the cardinal would have such a child, that everyone in the Etruscan kingdom praised this girl. Leaning on his arm, the guy poured himself some wine again. He drank the bright red liquid in a couple of sips. Rubina noted that his wife should also be the embodiment of virtue. The brown-haired woman explained to her son that he would become king. The guy squeezed the glass tightly in his hand and then placed it on the table. The guy explained to his mother that Alfonso had already taken the place of heir. While pouring another glass, the guy asked if he could take the throne. The woman reminded her son that his father loved him. The brown-haired man aggressively noted that his father loved him so much that he gave him a meager noble title and a palace without inheritance. And at once he furiously smashed his glass against the wall. The woman was furious that her son, having been born in her womb, dared to raise his voice at her. Tightly grabbing her son's shirt, the woman explained that he would be king. Rubina said that she heard that His Majesty would give this girl the blue heart of the depths of the ocean. The woman explained to Cesare that she really wanted to get this stone for herself. The guy agreed with his mother because of what the astrologer told her. Smiling, Rubina explained that the person who owns the stone will become a king. Mom wanted Cesare to become a true son, and she to become a woman under the king. Smiling, she explained to her son that the predictions come true. Approaching the guy, the woman explained that it was all for his sake. The brown-haired woman ordered her son to get for her the blue heart of the ocean depths. A letter of gratitude was sent to Ariadne for her demonstration of high religiosity at the High Mass. The brunette was demanded to appear at the Queen's palace. The girl got off the carriage wearing a pale pink dress. The cardinal ordered his daughter not to create problems, but to behave modestly and quietly. Ariadne bowed her head in front of her father, agreeing with him. The brunette was shocked that the man personally brought her here. The girl noticed that this time the invitation came personally from the Queen, who was supposed to thank her instead of the king. Ariadne realized that everything had gone too far. She just wanted to avoid an engagement to Cesare. The brunette paused at the mirror, looking at her reflection in it. The girl thought that her dress was too simple for such an important event. Ariadne came up with the idea of adding a flower to make the dress look more elegant. The girl remembered that peonies should grow in the backyard of the royal palace. Someone called the brunette by name. The girl shook her head nervously, trying to find the one who called her. Alfonso was sitting on a tree branch under the bright rays of the sun. The blonde shouted so that the girl could determine his location. Ariadne was surprised to see her old friend. He offered to climb in. A few moments later, the brunette was already on the branch next to the prince. Their hands lay very close, which made both of them a little embarrassed. The guy noticed that today his friend was wearing a light dress. Smiling, she replied that she did not plan to climb the tree. Patting his thigh, Alfonso asked if the girl would like to sit up. The brunette was surprised by the straightforward proposal. Ariadne realized that there was no time for hesitation now. The girl knew that thanks to Alfonso, she would be able to escape from Cesare from the Damar family. The skinny girl quickly jumped onto the guy's lap, realizing that this was her golden chance. Her elastic breasts touched his face and the girl's heart began to beat faster. The guy laid a piece of fabric on a branch. He assured that now the girl's dress would not get dirty. He wondered what brought his girlfriend to the palace. Ariadne explained that Queen Margaret had invited her to an audience. Smiling, the prince said that his father had been praising the savior for a long time. Leo wanted to reward Ariadne with a knighthood. Smiling, the girl noticed that she was sorry, because she could become a knight. Alfonso asked the brunette if she really wanted this. The girl was sitting on a branch and dangling her legs. The blonde promised Ariadne that someday he would give her the title. He wondered if she really had to swear allegiance to Her Highness today. Taking the guy by the hand, the brunette swore with all her soul that from now on she would be faithful only to her master. She promised to defend the prince's honor in the face of any adversity and put his safety above all else. Ariadne swore that she would always tell her master only the truth and fulfill all her promises to him. The skinny girl assured that she would never change her decision, never leave the prince and always be by his side. The girl's hand lay in Alfonso's strong hand. A little embarrassed, the blonde asked the girl if she would really do this. The principle is to note that if such an intelligent person as Ariadne helps him in state affairs, then he can become the most outstanding ruler in history. Having darkened a little, the girl remembered that in the past she had caught Alfonso in a trap, thereby killing him. But now, so casually and without a drop of shame in her eyes, the girl swore allegiance to the prince. The girl's hands clenched tightly, remembering what grave sin she was carrying on her shoulders. The blonde noticed that they would work well together with their friend. Because of her thoughts, the girl began to slide off the branch. Instantly, Alfonso grabbed her, thereby saving her from falling from a height. Holding his friend tightly to him, he asked if everything was okay with her. The girl thanked him. The prince asked his friend to be more careful. Ariadne's heart seemed to suddenly flare up, and a soft pink blush covered the girl's cheeks. The blonde asked the girl what she was looking for in this direction. The prince explained that it was impossible to get to an audience with his mother this way. Turning around, the brunette explained that she had wandered here in search of a flower to decorate her hair. Ariadne knew that her outfit was too simple. Princip noted that the girl looked beautiful. A little embarrassed, the girl turned away. Noting that her outfit lacked grace, Ariadne suggested that none of the young maidens had ever come to the queen's palace in such a miserable state. Alfonso was surprised that this was the only thing that bothered his friend. The guy took off the luxurious tape and asked the brunette if she would like it. The guy braided her thick dark hair with a slight movement. Ariadne was surprised that the prince took off his ribbon and personally tied her hair. She was amazed at how pure the guy was. The prince asked the girl if it looked strange, since it was his first time doing this. The girl thanked the blonde again. King Leo III bestowed a reward on the second daughter of Cardinal de Marais. The queen thanked Ariadne on behalf of the king and ordered her to rise. Margarita was surprised that her husband chose this as a reward. Ariadne asked if it would be appropriate to ask Her Majesty what was there. The queen said that the box contained a reward of 50 gold ducats and an unusual box with various trinkets. The woman said that there was the blue heart of the ocean depths. Falling to her knees, Ariadne explained that someone like her did not dare accept such a majestic gift. The aristocracy was surprised that the girl was able to refuse such a great treasure. The women did not understand how the girl could refuse, because the stone could become her family heirloom. The brunette realized that for some it was a matter of family honor and great reading, but for her it was comparable to a threat to her life. The skinny girl understood that anyone who wanted to get the stone for themselves would become a threat to her life. Margarita said that she understood the reasons for the girl's refusal. The woman explained that this was His Majesty's order. The queen asked to accept their gift, knelt down and quietly whispered to the girl that she could not defend herself from them alone. He asked the girl to pacify all those who desperately wanted to get the stone. Margarita said that Ariadne should find a balance, thanks to which envious people themselves will restrain each other. Her Majesty stood up and noted that it would not be easy. Ariadne suggested that this might seem too arrogant, but the girl wanted to ask for something else. The girl whispered something in Her Majesty's ear. The Queen asked what this nonsense was. The brunette swallowed nervously, realizing the consequences. Margarita explained that this was not just one request, but two. A smile appeared on Ariadne's face. She couldn't believe that she had succeeded. The Queen assured that this would not be easy to accomplish. Margarita explained to the heroine that one suitable gift had already been prepared for her. Duchess Marquez noticed that the girl apparently treated Her Majesty very well. The Queen noticed that Miss was half a century younger than them, and besides, she was very nice. The maids assured that the girl reminded them of Margarita in her youth. The girl was just as smart and strange. The woman suggested that they were indeed similar in some ways. Her Majesty realized that the girl's fate should be different than what happened to her. Soon Ariadne returned home. The sister and stepmother were looking at the jewelry that Her Majesty the Queen had given the girl. Isabella was delighted by the beauty of the jewelry. Isabella was most struck by the beauty of the amethyst earrings. They were the same color as the blonde's eyes. The sister unceremoniously put on a gift from the royal palace for Ariadne. Lucrezia replied that those earrings seemed to have been made for her daughter. The blonde asked her sister to give her these earrings. Isabella assured that if the earrings did not decorate her sister, they would become very sad. The stepmother noticed that family members should share all the benefits among themselves for the sake of common happiness. She insisted that 50 ducats was a very significant amount and asked him to give the money to her. The girl assured that her desires echoed the desires of Lucretia and Isabella. But unfortunately, the brunette couldn't give everything to them. Clenching her fist tightly, Isabella explained that if her sister did not want to share with her family, she could have said so right away. Ariadne explained that all the jewelry was engraved with the Queen's initials. The brunette said that anyone who goes against Her Majesty's decision will receive punishment for disgracing the royal family. The skinny girl held out the document. It was written in it that a reward of 50 gold ducats was ordered to be given to the charitable house of Rambouillet by decision of Queen Margarita de Carlo. Skinny explained that she donated all the money on behalf of her second daughter to de Marais. She said that she donated money to the foundation of this charitable house, which was managed by Her Majesty. Grabbing Ariadne by the dress, the stepmother asked why the girl did this. The brunette explained that she did this to improve the reputation of their family. The girl assured that Her Majesty publicly praised their family for not forgetting about the suffering and needy. The woman raised her hand to her and asked how she dared to object to her so brazenly. The cardinal stopped his wife, assuring him that he suspected that she would do this. The man sternly asked Lucretia if she knew how many pairs of eyes were now watching their home and family. The husband asked Lucrezia to stop demonstrating her greed. In his opinion, that amount was completely insignificant. The father asked Ariadne whether he had awarded her the blue heart of the ocean depths. The cardinal invited the girl to open it and look at the jewel. Everyone was surprised by the beauty of the sapphire. The man invited the brunette to leave the stone in his office. He believed that the girl did not have a suitable place to keep it. Ariadne became very nervous trying to explain to her father. Only awkward words came out of her mouth. Damn, you didn't understand why they hadn't arrived yet. The girl mentally begged to hurry up. Skinny heard a knock on the door. The newly arrived people explained that they came on the orders of Her Majesty Margarita de Carlo. The man announced that today the second daughter of Cardinal de Mere, by order of His Majesty, was given a precious gift. Brunette explained that for the convenience of storing the jewelry, the Queen sent a forged casket that should be kept in the owner's chambers. She explained that her room was in the attic on the 3rd floor. The cardinal waved his hand sharply, denying what was said. The man stated that the girl's room is on the 2nd floor, the westernmost door. Lucrezia recalled that these were in the piece of Hippolytus, their eldest son. The man pressed his finger to his lips as if trying to silence Lucretia. The husband explained to the blonde that if they say as it is, rumors will spread that they forced their daughter to live in the attic. The brunette smiled that this was what she needed, and the girl hurriedly headed to her new room. The skinny girl was surprised that there was even an office here. Ariadne was surprised that the eldest son used such a large space alone. The brunette told Her Majesty that when she brought the award home, it would no longer belong to her. At that moment, The girl asked the queen to sign a receipt stating that she had donated 50 ducats to the charitable house of Rambouillet. Ariadne asked to spend part of the money on buying a casket that should be placed in her room. After all, the queen will only have to give the appropriate order about this. She doubted that Marguerite would allow the Rambouillet charity house to be used as a kind of bank. The girl was surprised that Her Majesty gave her gifts in addition. Thanks to the initials and signature, the brunette was able to protect the jewelry from her sister. Fortunately, everything was resolved quite quickly and simply. A loud knock on the door distracted the girl from her thoughts. Sanxia reported that another person from the royal palace came and asked to give her a gift. The box contained a golden comb inlaid with stones and a note. A smile appeared on the girl's face when she saw Alfonso's initials. The room was quite grand. The maid noticed that the blanket was so soft and cozy here. The girl told the baby that now she did not have to do it on her own. After all, now the mistress has 2 new maids. Sancho asked how she could trust her family. Also, entrust strangers with working with things that directly touched her body. She vehemently protested against entrusting them with cleaning the office as well. Their argument was suddenly interrupted by a knock on the door. The mistress and the maid looked in surprise as Arabella entered the room with a musical instrument in her hands. The girl said that she did not come to play with her sister. The blonde said that she would watch what else her sister would do stupidly. Ariadne knew that in this house no one paid attention to the girl. Ippolito was the only and eldest son. Isabella is the pride of her father and mother, who could be sold to a wealthy family. These two received the attention and love of their parents, the Cardinal and Lucrezia. And Arabella, like a child who could not prove her worth to the family, became an outcast in her home. The brunette felt sorry for the girl and decided to talk to her. The girl asked Arabella why she brought the lute. The skinny girl asked if her sister really liked to play music. The blonde guessed that her sister did not know that she played the instrument brilliantly. She deftly touched the strings. The brunette suggested that her sister had talent in playing the lute. The girl explained that she is good at composing melodies. The older sister asked in surprise whether the little girl could write music herself. The blonde touched her instrument and filled the room with the sounds of melodies. Ariadne asked the girl if she really came up with this herself. Sancho noticed that Mrs. Arabella was smart, and her acting was simply incredible. A smile appeared on the blonde's face. She shyly assured that her game was not so incredible. Ariadne suggested that the girl ask her parents to buy another instrument. She explained that the organ would be much better suited for composing music. The little girl explained that she would like to change the melody for the Mass. The blonde knew that an organ would be useful for such a task. But unfortunately, Lucrezia told the musician that such an expense for the sake of one girl was too expensive. Sad, she said that if Sister Isabella did not use the instrument, then no one would buy it. The brunette suggested that the girl talk to her older sister. And if you agree, Mother could give her consent. The skinny girl understood that her younger sister realized that she was loved less than Isabella. The brunette did not understand why she sympathized with a child whose situation was several times better than hers. And she wondered who else should have worried about whom. 3 sisters met at the table. Isabella was putting on makeup, while Arabella looked at her with boredom. The baby turned to her older sister. Without looking up from the mirror, the blonde asked what Arabella wanted. The girl asked the beauty to ask her mother to buy an organ. Isabella didn't even take her eyes off the mirror. She explained that if her sister needed an instrument, this did not mean that others should immediately purchase it. The beauty calmly noted that wastefulness was a bad trait for a girl who knew manners. Almost breaking into hysterics, Arabella explained that it was not just her whim. The little girl promised to use it for good. Ariadne was surprised that she could say such a thing, herself using expensive cosmetics and luxury items of unimaginable value. The brunette said that the cantus written by Arabella was simply beautiful. Ariadne asked her sister to play. The sounds of the melody spread throughout the gloomy room. With surprise, the older sister asked if the girl had really made it up herself. Isabella asked where the little girl would perform this. The girl said that this was a melody for the Mass, but it was not finished yet. Unexpectedly for Arabella, the older sister hugged her and offered to talk about something in private. Hesitating a little, Isabella asked the brunette if she could come out. A few moments later, the door slammed shut. The elder sister told Arabella that the status of a family is determined by the most capable person in it. Isabella explained to the girl that the reputation also applies to the baby, because they were sisters. The parishioners discussed the fact that today she, one of the cardinal's daughters, would present her composition for the mass. People discussed how much talent there was in their family. One of the daughters was very religious and knew theology. The other had writing skills. Isabella came to this mass in a luxurious red dress and a headband encrusted with pearls. Isabella noticed that Camellia came early today. Miss de Marais thanked the woman for the invitation. She explained that this was her first own composition, and she could not help but invite a person who was well versed in music. Isabella noticed that today the woman arrived with her fiancé. The girl noticed that she missed Ottavio. The guy replied that Miss Isabella was beautiful as always. The brunette looked sideways at how the groom interacted with Miss de Marais. Ottavio said in parting that he expected a lot from today's performance. The blonde ordered herself to start. At that moment, a smile shone on her face. Isabella believed that her sister, unlike her, did not deserve the attention she was given on her previous mission. The blonde wanted today to return all the glory that the brunette took from her. Sitting in the hall, Arabella drooped a little. She sat alone with her head wearily bowed. With the appearance of an organ in the house, the girl was sure that she would soon be able to present her melody for mass. But unfortunately, the older sister managed to achieve what the girl could not. Ariadne warmly congratulated her younger sister on the acquisition of the instrument. The brunette was surprised that Arabella, instead of persuading Isabella to help decide on the purchase, allowed her to take the score and put her name on it. Touching the organ key, the girl asked if Arabella was glad to get what she wanted. The younger sister explained that Isabella promised to help her on the condition that she perform her music under her own name. Arabella asked why Isabella did this. The brunette explained that they are all kind and correct people. Clenching her small hands into fists, the blonde noticed that it was her sister. Arabella explained that the older sister might be mean to Ariadne, but not to her. The brunette asked why. When Isabella said that she wanted an organ, they immediately bought it. Ariadne replied that her father and mother knew that her older sister was not interested in playing musical instruments. The brunette asked her younger sister in surprise if Cardinal and Lucrezia were not her own parents. Ariadne asked why the family arranged activities in such a way as to develop Isabella's outstanding abilities. The older sister assured that if the baby was silent and humbly accepted and obeyed everything, then no one would know about her bad deeds. The brunette noticed that this time Isabella simply stole the girl's music. The baby asked to stop slandering Isabella because she was somehow better. Tears began to come out of Arabella's eyes. She convinced that mother and Isabella loved her. The girl was sure that she was the real de Marais. Calling Ariadne a fake, the blonde ran away crying. Ariadne remembered that in the past she had also stubbornly denied it. Accepting this was like realizing your misfortune. The brunette came up with a plan of what she could do for her little sister. At the next mass, Isabella again performed her melody. The parishioners listened to such beautiful music with admiration. The conductor froze abruptly when unpleasant sounds began to fly out from under the girl's fingers. Arabella did not understand what her sister was doing. The girl suggested that the excellent sister had messed up the notes. When the tune ended, people began to reluctantly clap. Returning to the performer, the conductor explained that they had finished playing the piece. The guy noticed that there was one part that was incomprehensible to him. The blonde explained that in the middle of the melody there was an illogical construction of notes. The conductor asked why these notes were there. Smiling, the performer explained that she wanted to emphasize that part. The guy assured that it was quite a bold decision. The conductor explained that the part where the organ solo begins, a very strange scale from C to A, jumped so sharply. The blonde noticed that this segment would be very difficult to play, because the musician would have to try to perform it with one hand. The conductor invited the girl to demonstrate how to play. Isabella asked if he really offered to do all this for her on her own. The younger sister realized that the older blonde couldn't read music, let alone play it. The girl asked if the master of his craft could not play this melody. The younger sister sat nervously biting her fingers. The girl realized that she had to help her older sister. Arabella replied that the introduction to string instruments was accidentally omitted from the final version. The girl explained that this was done unintentionally. The little girl explained that even the musician himself could not play something like this, and that there was a piece missing. Parishioners began to guess that this work was for the youngest daughter of Cardinal de Marais. People quietly said that from the very beginning they thought it strange that Isabella was also knowledgeable in music. The girl who knew about music realized that Isabella had stolen the composition from her sister. Lucretia explained that there was a misunderstanding, and her daughters wrote this composition together. The woman said that the cantus was composed by the eldest daughter and completed by the youngest. The girl's mother explained that Isabella actually wrote most of the work. Lucrezia explained that she did not want misunderstandings to arise and bad rumors to spread. General laughter rang through the crowd. Cesare asked whether Madame Lucrezia was telling the truth. Isabella was surprised to see Count Cesare. The guy said that he had not met the beautiful Isabella for a long time. The Count knelt down and tenderly kissed the blonde's hand, giving her a few more compliments. The guy said that her best quality was her beauty. Cesare noted that when a person tries to fit into society and add influence by wearing clothes that do not suit him, from the outside it looked disgusting. Isabella asked what the Count might know about someone else's life. The guy asked if he was wrong. Raising her voice to a scream, the blonde shouted that she did not care about such things at all. This only brought a smile to the brown-haired man's face. The guy explained that he had never thought of saying anything about her. The Count noticed that the girl understood him from the first word. Shrugging his shoulders, Cesare replied that the girl was so beautiful and also smart. The guy assured that now everyone knows that Miss de Mere also has an exceptional mind. The people behind couldn't help but laugh. The blonde was filled with anger and an evil grin appeared on her face. Isabella tried to explain herself by taking his hand, but the Count slapped the blonde on the hand. Cesare said that he came here to listen to good music, but witnessed such an unexpected situation. Taking off his hat, the guy noticed that he had seen enough for today, so he would leave first. The Count bowed before hurriedly leaving. Other people followed the guy. The cardinal's family remained standing with surprise on their faces. Seeing sidelong glances, the blonde ordered the parishioners to immediately stop staring at her and leave from here. The blonde man asked why Cesare decided to intervene. The Count asked what Ottavio meant. He explained that it seemed to him that earlier the girl still liked him. He insisted that Isabella had a strong sense of self-worth. The girl had a beautiful appearance. Her narcissism was obvious and understandable. Ottavio asked if the Count thought that it would not be difficult for him to win Isabella over again. The blonde asked whether the Count was really capable of organizing such a thing, or whether he had already lost interest. Cesare asked, since when should he express his opinion, looking back at a woman's mood or judgment. Having straightened his hair, the brown-haired man assured that a girl who wants to be near him must be patient. The Count noticed that the girl should be wise enough and not open her mouth in vain, provoking unflattering speeches. Turning around, he said that he wanted to have a drink, because his mood was already ruined. He explained that he would go first and invited the blonde to meet at the appointed place. Ottavio noted how hot-tempered the gentleman was. Isabella, kneeling and burying her face in the sofa, whimpered. The blonde didn't understand how she could show herself in public now. The girl asked her mother if she had seen the Count's look of complete contempt. The blonde also remembered a lot of sideways glances. Isabella was very worried that they would begin to bypass her in secular society. Lucrezia asked her daughter not to cry. Looking angrily at Arabella, the woman asked who allowed her to interfere. The girl mumbled that she just wanted to help. The little girl understood that she could not allow her melody to be played with the wrong notes. Mother asked if it was really so important to get it right, or if the sister was playing the wrong notes. Lucrezia noticed that Isabella's name was now tarnished, and bad rumors had already spread. The older sister raised her head. She replied that because of the girl, everyone would whisper vilely about her music. Arabella recalled that she wrote this melody herself. Raising her tear-stained eyes, the elder sister asked again. The little girl screamed in her face that she wrote the music, and Isabella simply took it away. The girl fell to her knees and explained to her mother that she really wrote this melody herself. Arabella explained that at least Mom had to find out, even if others didn't know the truth. Lucrezia looked sternly at her youngest daughter, and asked her if she was really talking about her older sister. The woman grabbed her youngest daughter tightly, explaining that Isabella was the pearl of high society and a treasure of which they should be proud. She explained to her youngest daughter that she wouldn't let anything ruin it, not even that stupid melody. Taking the rod in her hands, the mother asked if the girl realized her mistake. Arabella tearfully explained that it was not her fault. The little girl noticed that Isabella took away her music, and if not for this act, nothing bad would have happened. Swinging her rod, the woman asked if Arabella really refused to admit her guilt. A moment later, the sounds of beatings and Arabella's screams of her innocence and pleas for mercy were heard. Soon the baby was kicked out the door. The girl was trembling all over, and her whole face seemed to be bruised. The maids looked at her sideways, talking quietly. Arabella walked with a limp and a downcast look. The brunette offered her little sister a hug. Having hugged the recently hated Ariadne, the girl burst into tears. The older sister hugged the baby tightly. The child, beaten by his mother, gave vent to his feelings and cried bitterly. Aristocrats received an invitation to the salon to demonstrate and evaluate works of art. Thanks to the help of the merchants of the Republic of Porto, on the last Friday of August, the exhibition had the opportunity to present many valuable works. The decoration of this event was the appearance of the heir to the throne, Prince Alfonso, and representatives of other noble families. It was a great opportunity to expand my friendships. The invitation was sent to Miss Ariadne de Mere from the Marquise Alejandra de Cibo. The whole family gathered at one large table. The brunette was glad that she could meet the prince again. Isabella asked the maid if only one invitation had arrived. Drops of cold sweat began to flow down Miletta's face, and she answered in the affirmative. Isabella looked at the brunette with contempt. The blonde asked if her sister would go to the Marquise de Cibo for this event. The older sister explained to the girl that she had not been properly introduced to society. The blonde reminded Ariadne that before her debut, she was supposed to go out only with an accompaniment. Piercing her sister with her green eyes, Ariadne was surprised that she finally said something sensible. Putting down the cutlery, the cardinal noticed that Isabella was right. The blonde's eyes sparkled when her father admitted she was right. The father added that it was time to introduce his youngest daughter to society. Ariadne's eyes lit up because this was her debut. Isabella asked if her sister could hold her own ball. The blonde noticed that the ballroom season was already over this year. The eldest daughter recalled that the debut is held every year with the onset of spring, when the flowers were just blooming. Young girls and boys from noble families were invited to the palace for a special event to greet the king and queen. According to tradition, if the debutante cannot appear due to travel or illness, a separate score was held to make himself known in social circles. This is a privilege that the noblest people could take advantage of. Isabella was furious that her father would do this to her sister. The cardinal, not noticing his daughter's aggression, stated that the second daughter was also capable of raising the name of the de Marais family in society. The man explained that after the debuts, Ariadne's freedom of action will increase, and she will be able to do much more. Isabella decided that if she could not stop her father, she had to at least prevent the brunette from visiting the salon of the Marquise de Cibo. The blonde reminded that it was inappropriate to attend such events alone. Lucrezia explained to her husband that even if they start preparing for the ball right now, no matter how much they rush, it was already autumn. The woman assured that until then the stepdaughter could not go to the salon without a guardian. The wife told the cardinal that recently she had been a little ill to come there. Lucrezia suggested that the origins of her illness lay in the heat. The woman asked to call Dr. Devon so that he could examine her. The cardinal asked what his wife was doing that was constantly sick. The brunette asked how she could ask to be taken to the event when her mother was in such poor condition. Ariadne reminded that this would only be in her interests. Isabella assured that she was very sorry that this time nothing worked out. The blonde reminded her sister that the prince would be there. Ariadne calmly replied that she was not sorry for anything. The brunette took Sancha as her escort. The girl was incredibly happy that she could get into the salon. The mistress noticed the girl's impatience and calmly noted it. The carriage creaked as it drove to the event. The maid was surprised that they were taking her to an event where the prince himself would be. She reminded the lady that in this case she should have dressed more beautifully. The brunette was wearing a modest dress the color of the sun, and there was a soft yellow flower in her hair. Ariadne was glad that she was able to go to the salon. The girl agreed in advance with Madame Romani to accompany her as a guardian. The brunette thought about purchasing several paintings at auction. Works by an undeclared artist are to be exhibited today. It was assumed that the price of these paintings would increase greatly next year. A few years later, the artist became famous as the ruler of this era. Ariadne had already decided to buy his paintings in advance. Ariadne decided that this would be her investment in art. But the most important thing for the brunette was that she would have Vittoria Nica. The statue of Nike, the goddess of victory, was highly valued due to its artistry and good preservation. The aristocrat who bought the statue in a past life displayed it in the courtyard of the mansion to show off his treasure. After some time, part of the travel notes of Halicarotidis was discovered. The fragile wing of the statue could not be restored after a series of damages, so it was exhibited without one wing. The head and left hand disappeared somewhere. This image of the goddess became a symbol of her painful struggle and victory in the Celaspon War, and all the horrors of those days. For this reason, it was decided to preserve the statue in a dilapidated state. In other words, the sculpture that the aristocrat purchased was a fake. When the aristocracy of San Carlo found out about the deception, conversations in the capital did not stop for some time. Even scientists were agitated by the question of the authenticity of this creation. Ariadne was happy that she would finally see something interesting. Fortunately, this situation had nothing to do with her. After some time, Demer's second daughter arrived. All eyes were turned to the brunette. Many believed that the girl was not as beautiful as her sister, but still very charming and sweet. One of the miladies recounted rumors that the girl was a half-breed. The brunette with a glass in her hand noticed that Lucretia was not at all beautiful, and it was unknown who her eldest daughter took after. Ariadne was already used to being alone. Her past life went exactly like this. The girl decided to go to the table and taste a delicious piece. The brunette noticed Prince Alfonso in the crowd. The guy was surrounded by many people. Upset, Ariadne turned around and decided to stay in the garden until the auction began. She didn't want the blonde to see her alone. The brunette was aware that she looked very modest. He noticed his friend and shouted her name after her. The guy asked how long they had not seen each other. A smile appeared on the girl's face. A friend noticed that it must have been difficult for him to be in such a crowd of people. The blonde answered in the negative. The prince asked how the girl was released on her own, or whether she came with her mother. He was surprised to see the brunette again. The girl said that Madame Romani, her teacher, was with her as a guardian. The blonde asked if the girl liked her outfit today. Ariadne replied that she liked this one better than the previous one. His Majesty asked where the hairpin he had previously sent her was. A little embarrassed, the brunette explained that that gift did not match today's outfit. The girl promised to definitely wear a hairpin next time. Alfonso noted that he would be looking forward to this. Ariadne understood that she could not say that that hairpin was absolutely not to her taste. She, without listening to the conversation, suggested that Alphonse go to the beautiful flowers. The girl looked at the purple buds with pleasure, leaving the guy behind. Soon the friends were hidden from prying eyes by the thick greenery of the plants. The prince wanted to say something, but abruptly covered his mouth with his hand. The guy was surprised what thoughts flashed through his head because they were just friends. Alphonse asked if the girl wanted flowers. She explained that the flowers of the Marquise de Chibo were not allowed to be picked just like that. The blonde suggested doing this in secret from everyone. Ariadne asked how it was possible to sneak them in unnoticed. The girl didn't want to pick the flowers and just throw them away. Alfonso suggested hiding the buds in the hem of the skirt. The guy picked up his girlfriend and asked her to pick the flowers quickly. Ariadne picked a bright purple inflorescence. The girl was amazed by his beauty. She asked a friend if the flowers were beautiful. Smiling, Alphonse answered in the affirmative. Soon the auction began. The man said that the Marquis de Cibo and his wife had prepared this wonderful event. The organizer said that His Highness Prince Alfonso de Carlo was their guest today. The brown-haired man introduced himself to Vincenzo and said that he had arrived from the Republic of Porto. Looking at the fake, the girl realized that Victoria Nica was simply amazing. Previously, so many aristocrats gathered in one place. Vincentio opened a small curtain and suggested starting with small and beautiful things. The man said that it was a painting by one of the newly minted artists originally from Urbino. The painting was called The Virgin Mary in Daffodils. Bidding started at 5 ducats. There was silence in the hall. Only Ariadne agreed to the starting price. The man looked through his binoculars and asked who offered this price. Vincentio noticed that the second daughter of Cardinal de Moray gave 5 ducats. The presenter asked those present who could give more. The brunette understood that this master was not so famous yet, so no one showed much interest in his work. The girl knew that in a few years this artist would become the chosen artist of the dominant church. She knew that after the event of the future, the others that now did not want to purchase his work. Someone from the crowd offered 8 ducats. Ariadne was surprised who it was. Turning around, she saw Cesare. Vincentio asked which gentleman had just shouted out his bet. The man said that Count Cesare de Como had offered 8 ducats. The count glanced sideways at Ariadne. The girl suddenly remembered how familiar this look was to her. The guy showed new interest in something that was previously indifferent to him. The brunette raised her hand and offered 10 ducats per lot. The man asked if there were anyone else who wanted to buy this painting. After a pause, he said that the lot had been sold to Miss Demare. Sighing with relief, Ariadne realized that despite the fact that she had purchased the painting for more than she had expected, she had still fulfilled the original purpose of her visit here. Now the girl could calmly watch the race of fools. Vincentio announced the next lot in the form of the statue Victoria Nike. Calmly eating the cookies, Ariadne was delighted by the beauty of the fake. The aristocracy was delighted to see for the first time such an ancient creation, which was so well preserved. One of the women noticed that, as a rule, pieces of marble from the Hellenic era are dull gray. But here a beautiful pink tint was visible. The auctioneer noticed that everyone present here had an idea of the value of the entire work. The man assumed that no one needed his explanation. Vincentio reported that the bidding began at 1,200 ducats. While finishing the next cookie, the girl tried to remember who in her past life took part in the auction for the statue. Ariadne realized that many years had passed since then, and she could no longer remember this. Someone from the audience said that the bet was his. Turning around, the brunette turned pale, realizing that Alfonso had gotten involved in this. Count Marcello raised the price by adding 100 ducats. Ariadne sighed with relief, but the prince offered 1,500. Count Marcello and Prince Alfonso did not want to give in to each other and gradually raised their stakes. Ariadne could not allow Alfonso to buy the statue. Cesare asked why it was impossible to leave the last bet to Prince Alfonso. The brown-haired man raised his hand and said that this person insisted that this statue should not be bought. Cold beads of sweat rolled down Ariadne's face. The guy asked what Vincentio Ducato would say about this. The aristocrats began to talk among themselves. She did not understand this and assumed that Cesare had gone crazy. The auctioneer asked where such ridiculous thoughts came from in his head. The brown-haired man asked how he knew this. Pointing his finger at Ariadne, he suggested that this person could answer this question. The count explained that the girl could confirm that the statue was a fake. Turning to the brunette, Cesare asked if he had heard correctly. There was a noise throughout the hall. Everyone was discussing the news that the Victoria Nike statue was a fake. Ariadne tried to pretend that she did not understand what the count was talking about. The brown-haired man explained that the miss told him that the statue was a fake. The girl got up and explained that it was a blatant lie. Vincentio said that the girl should have been responsible for her words. Turning around, Ariadne burst into tears and noticed that the uncle merchant and Cesare were disgusting to her. Tears flowed down her face and onto her yellow dress. The brunette noticed that she was still young and she still didn't know much. The girl really wanted to do this, but she could not leave the gathering. She didn't know whether Alphonse would take it upon himself to solve the problem. Ariadne realized that a purchase of 2,000 ducats would not plunge the prince into poverty. She understood that if it was revealed that Alphonse had purchased a fake, the blonde's good name would be disgraced. The most important thing for her was not to let her friend be ridiculed. From the spot, Ariadne inquired about how experienced Vincentio was as an antique dealer. The brunette asked whether the authenticity of this statue was reliable. The man was certainly confident that he was right. He explained that that was why he brought the statue to the auction. The girl recalled that the fragile wing of the statue was destroyed by the Moorish army during the war, and it could not be restored. The auctioneer tried to prove that it mentioned the subsequent restoration of the wing. Vincentio aggressively explained that he saw nothing wrong with the restoration. The man noted that if the restoration was carried out during the times of ancient Hellenia, the price of the statue as an antique should not be underestimated. Ariadne extended her hand to the count. Cesare whispered whether she was asking him for a sword. The brunette explained in a whisper that she knew that the count had a club. Taking the weapon in her hands, the girl explained that no matter how much they try to collect the broken bowl, it will not stop being broken. The girl asked if the shareholder knew this proverb. Vincentio asked if she was nitpicking that the collapsed wing had been repaired. The man explained that the traces of the transformation had the same historical value. The brunette asked if the auctioneer really admitted that the wing had once been destroyed. Vincentio explained that this was a well-known fact. Ariadne noticed that in this case, if the broken bowl falls and breaks again in exactly the same places, the brunette swung her baton at the surprised looks of those present. With a loud crash and roar, the statue fell. Looking at the fake, Ariadne explained that the damaged early wing should have broken upon impact in the same way as before. The girl noticed that this stone statue looked as if it had been recently created. Vincentio asked what she allowed herself to do. Ariadne thrust the bat into the man's throat, causing him to fall to his knees in front of her. The brunette asked if he was sure that it was the original. Those present assumed that the merchant was a fraudster. Getting up from his seat, Cesare explained that he had one more question. The brown-haired man asked if the man really was Vincentio del Cato. The man ran to the exit and sent everyone to hell. There was an order to close all the doors and prevent the man from leaving. The guy looked at the heroine with a slight grin. The aristocrats discussed the case of Apostolus Reto and the present day. Someone suggested that the girl had special eyes that saw the truth. The brunette asked Count Docom what he was thinking about. The girl asked Cesare how it was possible to push another person to lie without assessing the consequences. He explained to Little Miss that everything ended well. The girl was unpleasant that the brown-haired man was talking to her as if with a close friend. Demore explained that she was the second daughter of the cardinal of the local parish. Pointing his finger at Ariadne's forehead, the count explained that he did not remember her debut. The brown-haired man explained that this meant that the girl was still a child. Cesare noticed that the girl was wearing a yellow children's chicken dress. The guy explained that he is not as irresponsible as he might seem at first glance. Brown explained that he had previously learned that the real Vincentio had been found dead. Ariadne asked why he didn't settle all the issues himself and dragged her into it. The guy assumed that she knew what situation he was in. Cesare explained that he did not dare to use his power as the king's illegitimate son by interfering in affairs. The girl explained to the brown-haired man that in this case he should have just quietly sat aside. The count explained that he had come all this way only to meet with her on a special matter. Approaching the girl, he asked her to name her price and sell him the blue heart of the ocean depths. The count asked if Ariadne had heard about the Swan of Linville. Cesare explained that it was the most valuable diamond he owned. Brown offered to exchange the diamond for the blue heart of the depths of the ocean and give another 6,000 ducats on top. Ariadne nervously clutched her dress because she knew very well what the Swan of Linville was. This diamond was popularly known as a gift to true love. In a past life, the brunette madly wanted to get it from Cesare. For the sake of the diamond, the girl then sacrificed her youth and committed murder. Ariadne understood that now the count himself had come to her in order to exchange. Having become a little gloomy, the girl asked if His Majesty had given her a precious sapphire for a low purpose, such as sale or exchange. Ariadne explained that the blue heart of the ocean depths was a treasure received as a gift from the king himself. She assured that this stone could not be bought for any money. Clenching her fragile hands tightly into fists, the girl said that apparently the count was not given the ability to see the difference between right and wrong, good and bad, what he was given to own and what he was not. Turning away sharply, the brunette asked Cesare to come to his senses. Grabbing the girl by the hand and pulling her towards him, the guy ordered her to stop. She pulled her hand back and asked to let her go. Squeezing his hand tightly, the brown-haired man asked what she just said. Alfonso ordered the Comte de Como to let go of the girl's hand. Sky-colored eyes filled with rage. The blonde asked his brother if he really hadn't heard. The prince once again ordered the count to let go of his girlfriend's hand. His Majesty asked if Cesare had not remembered that he should show respect to members of the royal family. Looking at the blonde with contempt, the count bowed. The brown-haired man never released the girl's hand. As Alfonso approached, he insisted that such an ignorant greeting was more suitable for people who had previously met. His Majesty explained that they met here for the first time today. Their gazes crossed. Ariadne took advantage of the moment and pulled her hand away. The count knelt and muttered a greeting through his teeth for His Majesty Prince Alfonso. Cesare's hands clenched into a fist and shook violently. He called the prince the second son of their kingdom. The blonde noticed that he was running into Miss de Marais for the second time today. He reminded the girl that the Marquis de Cibo and his wife were still waiting. Ariadne replied that she shouldn't have upset them by being late. Alfonso offered to take the girl, assuring that he was on his way. The blonde politely said goodbye to the Comte de Como and explained that he was glad to meet him. Turning around, the girl reminded the count that he still had to compensate for the damage for the broken floor, where the fake statue of the goddess fell. In parting, the brown-haired man called the girl a snake. Ariadne and the prince walked along the path through the garden. The blonde noticed that her friend was simply magnificent. His Majesty asked Ariadne how she knew that it was a fake. Looking away, the girl explained that she just guessed. The brunette said that everything ended well. Alfonso thanked the girl for giving him the hint. Thanks to the heroine, he did not waste money on a counterfeit. Laughing, the girl explained that she did not know the prince's thoughts. The blonde asked how the girl decided to break the statue if she was not completely sure that she was right. Nervously clutching the hem of her dress, the girl tried to formulate an explanation. Ariadne explained that she was just trying to save someone. There was a certain awkwardness in the silence. The friends turned sharply away from each other. Alfonso was worried whether he could become at least a little special for the girl. Lightly pushing the blonde on the shoulder, the girl reminded him that thanks to her help, he kept 2,000 ducats with him. Ariadne hoped that he would repay her in kind. The prince asked how he could repay the young lady for the service. The girl offered to thank her with 2,000 ducats. Alfonso joked that he knew who the real crook was here. Ariadne asked to fulfill her wish instead of money. The blonde asked what she wanted. The girl explained that she doesn't yet know what she wants. The brunette promised one day at the most important moment to express her desire to him. Alfonso promised that he would wait for this moment. The blonde noticed that it was time to return. Waving her hand goodbye, the girl became a little sad. Ariadne understood that again they would be separated for a long time, and they would not soon have the chance to meet again. The blonde, as if writing a text on the palm of his hand, promised to send her a letter. The prince explained that he would wait for her answer. There was surprise and a slight smile on Ariadne's face. After some time, the girl stood in her father's room. The cardinal explained that initially the girl's mother was supposed to handle this matter, but he decided to entrust it to his daughter. The man invited the brunette to independently organize a ball for her debut. A sparkle of delight flashed in her green eyes. The father explained that the budget was only 150 ducats. The man asked his daughter to use the money wisely when she was preparing. Ariadne understood that this amount was even less than half of the required budget. Bowing, the brunette thanked her father. She recalled that she was very skilled in these matters. After all, in a past life she ruled the royal palace. Events take us to a tea party at the Viscount de Leonati's. Someone present asked how Miss de Mere's tea tasted today. The girl noticed that he was quite good. One of the maids invited the blonde to try some delicious cookies. Isabella cheekily explained that these cookies were brought from the kingdom of Caligo. This tea party was too tiring for the girl. The Viscount's daughter Latinica de Leonati shook her head tenderly, ordering the cookies brought straight from Caligo. The butler was ready to carry out his mistress's orders. Blue eyes, blonde hair, and a toned physique quickly attracted the attention of guests. Miss de Mere understood that no matter how attractive the guy was, noble blood did not flow in his veins. Therefore, for Isabella, this guy was considered simply useless. The girl wondered if there was really anything more interesting here than this triviality. There was a light blush on Camelia's cheeks. The girl was delighted with the butler's beauty. The blonde asked if the girl was ashamed to look at Domestico in the presence of her groom. Surprised, the brunette asked when she would have time. The girl caught the groom's disapproving glance. Isabella gently ran her hand over the guy's face and asked him not to worry about this Domestico. Miss de Mere noticed that Camelia was incredibly lucky to have a groom like him. Ottavio, stuttering a little, tried to address Miss de Mara. Placing a finger on his lips, Isabella asked him to call her by her first name, not her last name. Camelia looked at the groom with disapproval. For Isabella, this was expected, because she was still considered the most desirable girl in San Carlo. The lady was informed that Miss Julia de Balderas had arrived. The girl was the daughter of a marquis. The hostess greeted the girl at the entrance to the house of the Viscount de Leonati. Isabella's face twisted when she saw Signora Giulia. Everyone gathered around the girl, leaving Isabella without attention. The blonde did not understand why she was worse than some daughter of the Marquis de Baldassare. Isabella was infuriated that the girl was addressed by her first name only because of her noble status, and she continued to be called by her last name. Isabella was overwhelmed with emotions. It was unbearable for her. The blonde understood that after a year her brother would inherit the family name. The girl had only one path, following which she could enjoy the honors to the fullest. Isabella will have to become queen to stand proudly under her name. She was ready to do absolutely anything to take this place. The brunette was wondering how to prepare a ball for an amount that was less than half of the required budget. Soon there was a knock on the door. The maid reported that Miss Marina had arrived from the tailor shop in Lazione. The woman asked the customer to raise her hands higher. Marine noticed that the brunette had rather pleasant facial features. The woman explained that as soon as she applied a little makeup, Ariadne would become simply irresistible. The girl said that she needed a simple cut dress to look decent. Marina was very surprised by this request. The brunette explained that the collarbones should be covered by the neck of the dress. The girl understood that if the neckline was made deep, everyone would certainly say that it was obscene, and excessive luxury would be called vulgarity. The brunette did not want to hear such things addressed to her in this life. The designer explained that this would not work, and advised not to completely cover the voluminous upper body. Marina assured that a correctly adjusted dress neckline would help Ariadne look slimmer. Sancho assured that the lady had very beautiful collarbones and a small face and not a long neck. The girl believed that if she abandoned the neckline, the outfit would look suffocating. Marina noticed the maid's tailoring skills. Confused, Sancho replied that she had only modest knowledge. After hesitating a little, Ariadne agreed to a small neckline. The tailor and the maid fervently tried to convince the brunette, and the girl had no choice but to agree. Ariadne decided to trust Miss Marina's experience. The woman carefully took measurements from every centimeter of the girl's body. The woman promised to make the brunette the most beautiful at the debut ball, so that her partner would not dare take his eyes off her. For a few moments, Ariadne thought about Alfonso. She understood that the prince was unlikely to agree to such a role. The girl shook her head and forced herself to come to her senses. Lucretia showed the red-haired guy. Genobe de Rossi explained to the girl that he would be her partner at the ball. The stepmother explained that she had invited one of her family members, because the brunette did not know any offspring from noble families. Gianboli was looking at the magnificent residence. The guy asked if Auntie really lived in this house full of luxury all the time. Having grown a little gloomy, the girl greeted her future partner. The guy suddenly began stroking the girl's silky hair. The red-haired man explained that he was good at dancing, and the girl should not worry and trust him. Glancing sideways at the brunette, Gianboli noted that the girl was a little tall. The guy asked why she, being so tall, wore high-heeled shoes. Lucrezia's nephew noticed that recently girls have been wearing high-heeled shoes in order to specifically stand out, and there is not an iota of concern for their partner in this. The stepmother noticed that a woman who is able to attract the attention of the man next to her stands out among everyone due to her inner beauty. With a wink, the partner insistently asked the girl to wear shoes without heels on the day of the ball. Gianboli explained that in this way, the brunette would demonstrate her wisdom. Walking out the door, Ariadne shared that she can tolerate a lot, but not this. Sancho completely agreed with the lady. Ariadne nodded her head and explained that there would be only one solution. The brunette still decided to invite him. The prince, with a smile on his face, wrote a letter to the amazing Ariadne. The blonde asked if the girl got home safely. The hydrangea blossoming throughout the royal palace again reminded Alfonso of her. The guy was looking forward to new meetings with her. The brunette dared to write about her desire. The girl asked if her friend would agree to become her partner at the ball. She clearly explained that if she did not resolve this issue, she would find herself in a difficult situation. Alfonso asked the girl not to bother wasting time on such questions. Princip asked to write him only the date and place. Reading the letter, Ariadne's eyes lit up. After all, for the first time they showed unconditional favor to her. In her past life, despite her self-sacrifice, those around her did nothing but what was used and passed on. The brunette didn't know if she could accept Alfonso's kindness so easily. Rubina told her son that this time the girl was throwing a ball in honor of her debut. The woman told Cesare that, according to rumors, her partner would be the nephew of Lucrezia de Rossi. Smiling, my mother noticed that Gianboli was the most ordinary man. Rubina explained that no matter how you looked at it, Cesare looked better compared to him. The guy said that he knew his mother's thoughts and asked to change the topic of conversation. The woman asked him not to be stubborn and to listen to her words. Rubina explained to her son that if he wanted to take the throne, he needed a servant who was famous for his favor and whose name was on everyone's lips. Cesare recalled that he asked the woman to stop. He explained that Ariadne was not even a princess with the right of succession. The guy was surprised that his mother was convincing him that if he married her, the throne would be in his hands. Cesare muttered through his teeth that the brunette was like a small mouse with a bad temper. Mother, while drinking wine, explained that he was unable to melt the heart of some girl, and because of this he was angry with her. The woman noticed that he was pathetic. The brown-haired man shrugged it off and explained that he did not want to sign up with her as a partner. He assured that he would rather die than go there. Rubina said that her son was a pathetic, scared loser if he didn't even try to take risks. Jumping up, the guy took his cloak and left the room. The brown-haired woman did not like that her son decided to show her his tough temper. Unable to contain her emotions, the king's mistress spilled the wine. Rubina clutched her glass tightly and abruptly put it on the table. She didn't like that Cesare was unable to get his way. Rubina never missed a single chance in her entire life and always got what she wanted. Isabella asked the maid if her sister really ordered a dress from that workshop. Melita reported that Mrs. Marini from the sewing workshop recently personally came to the brunette to take measurements. The blonde grumbled that if her sister was born ugly, then at least the dress should have been ordered from the best workshop. The maid asked if this was really good for Isabella. The cardinal's eldest daughter realized that the girl in the white dress would shine brightest. Entering the workshop, the blonde asked if they had fabric of a lighter shade. The girl was looking for white or cream shades. The tailor asked if they weren't currently choosing fabric for the debut of the girl's younger sister. Marini reminded that at the ball only the debutante and her partner wear white clothes. Isabella wanted the dressmaker to follow her instructions silently and not interfere. The blonde explained that it was her sister's whim to wear identical white dresses to the ball together. Marini was offended that her mistress did not listen to her at all. The blonde smiled and said that she and her sister were very friendly. The lady explained to Melita that wherever she went, she had to look more beautiful than others. Isabella wanted to find a way to stand out in order to further surpass her sister. Lost in thought, the girl began nervously biting her nails. The maid suggested pouring wine on Ariadne's dress on the day of the ball. Isabella, to her regret, understood that in this case her sister would be considered unhappy and would begin to sympathize. The blonde suggested that Ariadne would have a breast pocket. Melita explained that this would be quite likely, because Sancha was taking out the calico to be washed. The maid suggested that this fabric was used for the breast pocket. A grin spread across the girl's face as she had another idea. In a few days the expected event was coming. Helping the lady get dressed, Sancho assured that she looked stunning. There was confidence in Ariadne's eyes and a smile on her face. The girl asked whether the brunette was shining more or her outfit. Ariadne explained that if the maid continued to flatter her, she would mislead her into thinking that she was truly beautiful. The brunette explained that the dress felt terribly uncomfortable in her chest. The lady asked if Sansia had tied the fabric as usual. It seemed to the girl that her chest was a little loose. The baby explained that she tightened it looser than usual to emphasize the brunette's figure. Sansia noticed that the mistress usually hides her breasts. The maid explained that Maria had lent her a very good thing. The girl immediately decided to try it out. Sancha explained that she had hooks and sewed them onto calico. Smiling, the little girl explained that she sewed them on for convenience when using the chest pocket. The maid said that now there was no need to tie the fabric, and the knots were not visible. Patting another maid on the shoulder, the girl explained that her idea was just right. Soon after the conversation, there was a knock on the door. They broke the news that the girl's partner had arrived. The brunette straightened her hair, assuming that Alfonso was standing behind the door. Ariadne gave herself the command to go out into the world. The friends were very happy to see each other. The prince looked at his partner. The girl asked how long the blonde had been waiting for her. The guy explained that he had just arrived. Alfonso complimented that the girl was graceful like Queen Guinevere from the legends. Embarrassed, the girl turned away, explaining that it was inappropriate to say something that was not in her heart. The partner explained that she was indeed very beautiful. Lucretia's nephew burst through the door, telling the girl that her partner had arrived. Gianboli was surprised where the girl found such a handsome boy. The red-haired guy asked if the girl thought that a man should be famous not for his beauty, but for his skills. Gianboli was upset that the girl was seduced by someone else, forgetting about her partner, as beautiful as a knight. The stepmother's nephew accused the girl of wearing high heels without listening to him. The guy explained that these were not empty words, and ordered the girl to immediately change clothes. Grabbing Gianboli by the hand, the blonde explained that there was no point in this, because the girl did not accompany him today. Unable to restrain himself, the guy swung at the prince. He said that he would now find out who stood in front of him. Coldly taking out his sword and pointing it at the enemy, Alfonso asked him to stop staring. Having fallen to the floor, Gianboli asked if he had gone crazy. Lucrezia's nephew asked how his opponent dared to put a sword to his throat, not knowing who he was. Returning the sword to its sheath, the guy introduced himself as the second son and crown prince Alfonso de Carlo. With his head down, Lucrezia's nephew introduced himself as Gianobi de Rossi from Taranto. The impudent one greeted the small luminary of their kingdom. Trembling all over, the guy with red hair explained that he couldn't dare to think that it was the prince. A relative of Lucretia repented of what he had done and begged for mercy. Looking at his opponent with contempt, the blonde asked if he was really asking for forgiveness, having barely learned that he was a prince. Alfonso was furious that he dared to threaten a good wine girl. The prince asked how he dared to swing at a man whom he had seen for the first time. He doubted that if Genobi had allowed such rudeness with any other interlocutor, whether he would have repented then. The blonde asked first to apologize to Madame de Marais. The red-haired guy muttered an owl asking for forgiveness through clenched teeth. Alfonso reminded that when you apologize, you should indicate what you are asking for forgiveness for. Sighing, the brunette explained that she didn't need it. The girl expressed hope that her distant relative had learned a lesson from what happened. Soon the guy ran out, loudly slamming the door behind him. Ariadne stammered, assuring that she felt great gratitude to His Highness. Lightly pushing Alfonso on the shoulder, the brunette asked why she was sad. The girl joked that only her sadness was appropriate here. The blonde asked if they really treated her like that at home, gently stroking the girl's cheek. The guy explained that it was inappropriate to tolerate such things. The guy explained that Ariadne was amazing, and she should not tolerate such an attitude towards herself. The girl nervously clutched the hem of her dress. The brunette said his name with trepidation in her voice. The guy came to his senses to see if he had removed a specially released strand of her hair. The girl laughed at the incident. The surprise on Alfonso's face gave way to a slight smile. A lot of people gathered at the debut. The cardinal asked to pay attention to the main character of today's holiday, his second daughter. The man raised his glass of wine and the guests followed his example. The door swung open and the couple walked out holding hands. Stormy applause rang out in the hall. The women discussed the cardinal's second daughter with admiration. A girl with blonde hair asked who this boy was next to the debutante. Isabella's face twisted with anger when she saw Prince Alfonso. The blonde didn't understand how her sister dared. She didn't like that her sister, sitting at home all day, managed to seduce the prince. Someone reported that a messenger had arrived with congratulations from His Majesty the King. There was surprise on the friends' faces. Ariadne asked in a whisper what was happening. The blonde explained that he did not inform his mother and father that he had left the palace. The trumpet sounded and everyone bowed. Cesare entered the door. There was a cool calm on his face. The brunette did not understand what he had forgotten here and what he was planning. Having opened the scroll, the brown-haired man began to convey what was written. Cesare read that on this day, the cardinal's second daughter, Ariadne de Marais, celebrated her debut in front of everyone. The guy recalled that she received recognition of her services to the state thanks to her unshakable faith in God. The message was written as a congratulations on his official debut. His Majesty sent Count Cesare de Como as a partner to the girl. Ariadne's face showed surprise and horror. The girl did not understand why Cesare was appointed as her partner. The brown-haired man was not happy that because of his mother he would have to court this impudent girl. Looking up, the guy was surprised to see his brother. A smirk appeared on the face of the king's illegitimate son. Cesare asked if the second son of their kingdom was really present here. The brown-haired man explained that he had now come here on behalf of the king, and would therefore omit the formal greeting. Cesare explained that the king ordered him to be the girl's partner at the ball. Stretching out his hand, the brown-haired man asked Miss de Marais to walk with him. The guy explained that this was a strict royal order and ordered the girl to quickly give him her hand. The air seemed to become viscous with tension. Putting on a smile, the prince suggested that it was time for him to retreat. Sadness appeared on the brunette's face. The prince promised to see the girl later. A nasty smile appeared on the count's face. During the dance, the girl did not want to meet Cesare's blue eyes. Looking at the brunette, the count realized that the girl was very nice with herself. The brown-haired man explained that he was pleased to meet Miss Ariadne again. Cesare noticed that what was said could not be taken back, and promised to behave politely with the girl from that day on. The brunette asked to call her Miss de Marais. With a smile, the count looked at his partner. The guy realized that unlike other girls, she had a lot of courage. The most important thing to him was that she was Alfonso's girlfriend. For Cesare, depriving his brother of his beloved was quite exciting. The brown-haired man was warmed by the hope that he would soon be able to get closer to Ariadne. Alfonso whiled away the time alone. Isabella slowly approached the prince. The blonde didn't notice and accidentally pushed the vase. His Majesty tried to prevent the decor from breaking, but the vase of flowers broke with a crash. The aristocrats looked sideways at the incident. People began to whisper that the prince had decided to ask Isabella to dance. They assumed that Alfonso, getting excited, accidentally broke a flower vase. The aristocrats suggested that even His Highness could not resist the beauty of the girl. Smiling, she asked if the blonde really wanted to ask her to dance. The guy put his palm in front of him, trying to answer negatively. With a radiant smile, Isabella said that everyone was looking at them and asked the guy to hurry up. A few moments later, they were dancing together. The girl asked if Alfonso liked the celebration. With discomfort, the guy explained that everything was fine. With a smile, the blonde noticed that His Majesty dances quite well. With sadness in his sky-colored eyes, the guy explained that he was taught by the well-known Laura Wald. The girl danced gracefully. She asked if her partner found the decoration of the hall unique and charming. Isabella clung tightly to the prince and assured that all the decorations were personally selected by her sister Ariadne. Cold beads of sweat ran down Alfonso's face. The girl was happy that even the prince could not resist touching his body. The prince explained that he considered Ariadne outstanding. His Majesty noticed that the brunette's enterprising mind caused unprecedented enthusiasm. Isabella dreamed that the prince would quickly see Ariadne's flaws and then turn his gaze to her. The beautiful girl looked at the prince. There was fire in her eyes. After completing the dance, Ariadne and Cesare bowed deeply to each other. The brunette quickly walked away from the count. Soon the girl met her friend again. Ariadne admitted that she had already thought that the prince had left her. Smiling, the blonde explained that he could not afford to leave without dancing with the main heroine of the ball. The girl noticed that the next melody had already started playing, and a moment later His Majesty extended his hand, inviting her to dance. The guy asked if the dear lady would do him the honor of dancing a waltz with him. Smiling, Ariadne replied that she would be happy to do this. A friend asked if Count Cesare had bothered her. The brunette assured that now the count behaved extremely politely, and the girl found it very strange. She asked how his first dance went. Alfonso reported that when he was with the girl's sister, her eyes slowly filled with horror. Ariadne asked if her sister, the beautiful Isabella, was beautiful. The blonde avoided answering and asked if they were similar to her. A spark of hope played in the brunette's soul. Ariadne explained that many said that her sister was the most beautiful of all in San Carlo. The prince explained that the blonde was not much different from the others. Alfonso asked if it was true that the girl selected all the decorations herself. The brunette said that she did all the preparation. A friend assured her that everything worked out great. The fabric on the girl's chest began to slowly tear, exposing her breasts. The guests began to discuss the torn dress and exposed breasts. The dance partner put his jacket on the brunette and asked her to let them through. Alfonso assured his friend that there would probably be others in the ladies' room. The guy asked where they could go. The girl said that her room was on the second floor. Seeing the drooping Mrs. Sancha shuddered. The maids rushed about, suggesting that first the brunette should have been covered with something and prepared with a change of outfit. The brunette trembled all over. Worried about her, the prince asked how she felt. The girl remembered the last words she heard before her death in a past life. Tears began to flow freely from her green eyes. Completely shaking, the girl explained that she was very ashamed. Alfonso wanted to pat her on the shoulder, but at the same moment hesitated. The friend hugged his upset girlfriend tightly. Patting Ariadne on the back, he asked her not to worry and promised her that everything would be fine. When the girl stopped shaking, Alfonso asked if she was feeling better. Ariadne nodded sadly, but tears appeared in her eyes. Ariadne asked if everyone had seen her breasts. Flustered, the blonde assured that it was only for a short moment. The guy explained that nowadays older women liked such cutouts. The girl assumed that all the guests decided that she was ugly. The prince wondered what exactly was ugly. Shamefully, the brunette explained that she was talking about her breasts. Very nervous, the prince blurted out that the girl had a very beautiful neckline, and he reassured her that he managed to cover the girl with a cloak, and no one except him had time to see it. Clutching his hand tightly, the guy thought that only he wanted to see her beauty. The girl's eyes began to sparkle. Embarrassed, Alphonse hurried to explain that he had been dancing for too long and now he should go out to get some fresh air.